Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the regular council meeting for Monday, December 18th, 2017. I'd like to first off say that this meeting is being held on the traditional territory of the Nanaimo First Nations. And before getting into the meeting, I want to provide all of the gallery a comprehensive review of council meeting decorum. A meeting of council is intended to be a place where democracy can freely take place in a respectful and safe manner. The council chamber is a workplace, and there are considerations council and staff must make to ensure a safe work environment exists. Each councillor brings to the meeting their own individual personalities, attributes, abilities, and values. Each member of council is required to be respectful, not interrupt or disrupt another member of council, staff, or the public when they do not have the floor. Important attributes of the mayor and councillors include being fair and reasonable, objective and impartial, firm but friendly, confident but considerate, tactful and courteous, and confining the discussion to within the scope of a meeting and within reasonable limits of time. Therefore, there will be no cheering, jeering, or other outbursts from the gallery to ensure that anyone speaking, whether it be a delegation, member of council, or staff, is not interrupted and do so freely without fear of ridicule. The microphones of anyone that is being inappropriate or has exceeded their time limit will be cut off. If there are any outbursts by any person in the gallery, they will be asked to stop, and if they do not comply, they will be asked to leave. A recess is another tool we may use in order to reset the environment of the council chamber. It's our belief that if everyone is respectful of these basic considerations, this meeting and future meetings will be more effective in furthering the business of the City of Nanaimo. Thank you. Late items, Ms. Snellgrove.
A, procedural motion to proceed in camera. We've added community charter sections 91C and G. Agenda item 6A, remove presentation from Michael Lowry, Communications Manager, Western Canada Marine Response Corporation regarding new spill response-based plan in Nanaimo. Agenda item 8A, appeal of denial of chauffeur permit, Mr. R. St. Amour, add additional documentation. Reorder agenda item 8C, 2018 to 2022 financial plan bylaw number 7253 to 8B and add report and bylaw. Agenda item 8D, committee recommendations, add the following Finance and Audit Committee recommendations from 2017 December 13th. Social Planning Grant 2018 recommendations, electoral area fees, response to health, social, and safety issues in the downtown. Agenda item 8E, add appointment of alternate director to the Regional District of Nanaimo Board report. Agenda item 10B, removes draft Port Drive Waterfront Master Plan. Agenda item 10D, OCP 83 amendment application 5260, 5280, and 5300 Tanya Drive. Add delegations 2, Susan Juby, 3, Yvonne Leduc, 4, Roberta Manzini, 5, Vicki Adamson. Agenda item 11F, add zoning amendment bylaw 2017 number 4500.115 for adoption. Agenda item 11G, add the bylaw status sheet for information only. Agenda item 15A, remove Councillor Yoakum's motion regarding marijuana storefronts, and I understand that Councillor Armstrong and Councillor Brennan have late items.
Thank you. Councillor Yoakum.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm not in agreement to 3K, removing the motion regarding dispensaries. Therefore, I would request to keep the motion on the floor. If it's defeated, it's defeated. If it's passed, it's passed. And then at least minimally have the conversation regarding it, because I did send the languages in time contraire. So I would request to please leave it on the agenda, please.
Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Brennan. We have to vote on each one of the late additions separately, so we'll start with this one. Any discussion? Councillor Brennan?
It is to maintain the agenda item as...
Well, it's been removed, so now you're going to be placing it on the agenda.
Yep, okay.
Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Show Mayor McKay opposed. Next item. Councillor Brennan.
Mr. Don Bonner has asked to be placed on the agenda under 8B as a delegation to the budget.
Under 8B,
B, am I right on that? No?
is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Thorpe. Discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Councillor Kipp.
Thank you. Under item 15, other business, I'd like to put an issue about sidewalks. Sidewalks. 15, I guess it'd be other business.
That would be 15D.
15B.
D.
15D. Okay, is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Armstrong. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Show of Mayor McKay opposed. Next one, Councillor Bestwick.
Just clarification, please, Ms. Snellgrove. The speaker in 10D, I missed the last added speaker.
Vicky Adamson was the last speaker.
So I have Ms. Juby, Ms. Leduc, Ms. Adamson, Ms. Mancini on my list.
And then Miss Adamson.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brennan?
I'm not sure if this is the right place, but Mr. Steingard asked to speak on,
Yeah. Are you asking on that one? If we stick with this one for
wondering
the,
if I'm in the wrong place, if I'm muddled
no,
up.
let's just stick with this one if we could, unless you want to add him to this one as well, to the motion that's on the floor.
Yes. Sure,
Okay?
unless somebody says yes to one and no to the other.
I'm sorry, is there a motion on the floor?
No, there's not.
Okay. So we've got Mr. Steingard, and what was the other one? Councillor Yoakum?
I would have mentioned it sooner, but we had to get it passed first. For 3K, Miss Amanda Oram would like to speak on the agenda item.
If we could stick with this one, which is, I believe, 3H.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you.
That's right.
Councillor Brennan, is there a seconder?
I'll second.
Second for Mr. Steingard. Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Next one is Councillor Armstrong.
Under other business would be, I believe, 15E, to add Mr. Peter Urquhart to discuss question period. That's a late delegation.
15E. Thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Thorpe. Any discussion?
Delegations for other business in a council meeting, is that permitted?
It's up to council, but they could be referred to a committee of the whole meeting.
Okay. If council can do it, that's fine.
Thank you. So it is an item that's not on the agenda tonight. There was a mover, a seconder. Thank you. Okay, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Show of Mayor McKay opposed. Next one, Councillor Fuller.
Did we deal with the proposed delegation of Amanda Oram to speak to Councillor Yoakum's motion?
No.
Okay, so there's two I want to add, is Amanda Oram to speak to 15A and Sherry Morrow to speak to 10D, which is the Town New Drive.
Okay, so if we can stick with 15A, you can hold that.
Yep.
So we have Amanda Oram on 15A. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Armstrong. All right, discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Show Mayor McKay opposed. Next one.
Sherry Morrow to speak to 10D, I believe it is. Yes.
10D, Sherry Morrow. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Brennan. Thank you. Discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Show Mayor McKay opposed. Oh, pardon me, I'm sorry. Can we do that again, please? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right. So, can we have a motion for the adoption of the agenda as amended? Moved by Councillor Kipp, seconded by Councillor Bestwick. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. So the next one is, there's no previous minutes. The 6A presentation has been removed. So now it's into the mayor's report. I'll just be as quick as I possibly can here. We're coming into the Christmas season, and I just wanted to let everybody know over the Christmas season there are a number of activities that are ongoing in the city of Nanaimo, including all this week. If you have a desire to become a little bit more fit, a gift of food to be given to the Loaves and Fishes will be accepted at Oliver Woods in exchange for fitness programs. They're on all this week. If you have any business with the city over the Christmas holidays, I would suggest you check with our website. Up on the banners, up on the banner at the top of the website, there's a link to go to our business hours during the Christmas period. And from the 20th to December 31st, there's a lot of family activities going on at Beban and at the swimming pools, right up to the end, which is the New Year's Eve celebration, which is supposedly the largest in all of Nanaimo. This year's theme is called Space Jam. Everything from swimming to skating to all kinds of different activities, face painting, you name it. So it's a real good time at a real good price. So from all of our employees, mayor and council, I want to wish everyone the very best wishes for the holiday season. Make sure you spend some time with family and do the things that are most important at this time of the year. Thank you. So the next item is under administration. And this is a little bit of an unusual one, and the first thing is with respect to the appeal of a denial of a chauffeur permit. It is under the city's purview and council's purview to review appeals of chauffeur permit denials, and we're going to hear our first one from this council for tonight. In fact, it'll be the first one I've heard in my 2 terms on council. So I need to read out a statement to everyone with respect to how this is going to take place, how it's going to unfold. This hearing is convened under Section 36, subsection 7 of the Motor Vehicle Act to determine whether or not the officer in charge's refusal to issue a chauffeur's permit to Robin St. Amour should be upheld or overturned. I will chair this hearing. We'll say a few words related to the procedure before we commence. This hearing is open to the public to observe, but unlike other hearings, members of the public are not given the opportunity to address council. We would ask members of the public in attendance to refrain from expressing themselves during the hearing. This includes speaking, making sounds, clapping, or any expression of emotion. I would also like to remind council that it is convened today as a quasi-judicial decision maker to hear an appeal by Mr. St. Amour from the refusal of the officer in charge to issue a chauffeur's permit under Section 36, subsection 5 of the Motor Vehicle Act. In this regard, both council and the appellant have been provided with written materials in advance of today. Today will be the opportunity for council to hear directly from the RCMP representatives and the appellant and to ask questions of each. Council members should not consider any materials beyond the written material provided and what they hear today. Do not be influenced by any other information that is not before you today. I would ask that members of council keep their questions relevant to the matter under consideration and ensure that each of you keep an open mind and not prejudice the outcome one way or the other until we complete the hearing and complete deliberations. I will chair the hearing in a manner similar to other hearings and council meetings and recognize each speaker before the comments begin. The agenda for the hearing will be as follows. Number 1, the hearing will commence. Number 2, the RCMP will make its presentation regarding why the license application was denied. 3, council may ask questions of the RCMP representative. 4, the appellant may ask questions of the RCMP representative. 5, the appellant/representative will make presentations to council. 6, council may ask questions of the appellant/representative. 7, the RCMP representative may ask questions of the appellant/representative. Number 8, council will deliberate on the information before it. Council may wish to obtain or consider legal advice during its deliberations and before it prepares its reasons. If this is the case, council may close the meeting to the public for this purpose. Council will then return to the open meeting to deliberate and decide on the information presented, and it's noted that it's council discretion whether they obtain or consider legal advice when deliberating. Number 9, council will make a decision by way of a council resolution. And number 10, the hearing will then be adjourned. Councillor Armstrong.
Yeah, I declare a perceived conflict as I was involved in the investigation.
Thank you very much. So Councillor Armstrong will be stepping out of the deliberations due to a conflict of interest. So the first item we will now convene the hearing. The first item will be that the RCMP will make its presentation regarding why the license application was denied. Please come forward. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Your Worship. My name's Corporal Terry Crawford. I'm the non-commissioned officer in charge of Nanaimo traffic section, and part of my responsibility is the review of these chauffeur permits applications. I've been in that role since the end of October of this year. To start, I would just like to review, I know the letter that Council's been forwarded regarding Robin St. Amour and some of the details behind our investigation and the review of this chauffeur's permit. The reason for the denial of the request to the chauffeur's permit was brought about because of the charge of criminal harassment under Section 264 of the Criminal Code of Canada. St. Amour was investigated from a report made to Nanaimo RCMP in April 11th of 2012. A female complainant who was working as a lifeguard at the time at Nanaimo Aquatic Center called the RCMP. The female reported that Mr. St. Amour had made constant inappropriate suggestions to her. St. Amour was noticed by the female complainant sitting in his vehicle out in front of her residence in a rural part of Nanaimo. At this time, the investigator spoke to Mr. St. Amour, warning him not to have any further unwanted contact with the female, as he would be arrested if the behavior continued. Mr. St. Amour did not heed this warning. Mr. St. Amour followed the female from an appointment in downtown Nanaimo to her place of work at the Nanaimo Aquatic Center. The female recognized Mr. St. Amour's vehicle as she left the appointment, and he followed her through town, and she therefore took a different route to the Nanaimo Aquatic Center, but was sure Mr. St. Amour was following her. Once arriving at the Nanaimo Aquatic Center, the female ran into the center, finding refuge in the office area. Mr. St. Amour was then observed sitting under a boat near the pool area, watching the female from the pool area until staff closed the blinds to the office she was within. The investigator arrested St. Amour on April 20th of 2012 on the charge of criminal harassment. Basically, I'd like to just read out what the charge of criminal harassment pertains from the Criminal Code, Section 264. It's basically no person, 264 sub 1, no person shall without lawful authority and knowing that another person is harassed or recklessly as to whether the other person is harassed, engaged in conduct referred to in subsection 2 that causes that other person reasonably in all the circumstances to fear for their safety or the safety of anyone known to them. Subsection 2 reads, the conduct mentioned in subsection 1 consists of A, repeatedly following from place to place the other person or anyone known to them, B, repeatedly communicating with either directly or indirectly the other person or anyone known to them, C, besetting or watching the dwelling house or place where the other person or anyone known to them resides, works, carries on business, or happens to be, or D, engaging in threatening conduct directed at the other person or any member of their family. Subsection 3 reads, every person who contravenes this section is guilty of A, an indictable offense, and is liable to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 5 years, or B, an offense punishable on summary convictions. In this matter, the arresting officer had to form reasonable probable grounds for his arrest, and then forward a request for charges to Crown Counsel in the form of a report to Nanaimo Crown Counsel. On April 24th, 2012, Crown Counsel approved charges for criminal harassment, so they basically review the report, find out if the elements, look to whether or not the elements within the section of criminal harassment have been met, and then approve a charge. On September 4th, 2013, criminal charges were withdrawn, and a peace bond was entered for Mr. Saint-Amour. In criminal court, of course, the Crown Counsel is burdened with proof beyond a reasonable doubt that the matter occurred. And I'm not privy to the reasons or circumstances for the disposition of the peace bond. I don't know how or why the presiding judge came to this ruling for Mr. Saint-Amour. I just know that the result of that court case was a peace bond, a 12-month peace bond. Mr. Saint-Amour later, in pursuit of his permit application for a chauffeur's permit, attended the Nanaimo RCMP detachment on it was July 31st, 2017, to see if the chauffeur's permit was ready for him. At that time, Saint-Amour was advised he would be contacted once the chauffeur's permit review had been completed by the RCMP traffic section. Mr. Saint-Amour became verbally abusive towards the city staff, yelling expletives at him. I won't go into the specific verbiage of that interaction. Under the Motor Vehicle Act, Section 36, Sub 5, that you were referring to, if the police chief of the municipality, on proof to his or her satisfaction, believes that a person holding a permit under subsection 3, because of his or her use of dealing in intoxicants or narcotic drugs or any other reason, is unfit to act as a chauffeur, the police chief must suspend or cancel the permit. In this case, the permit was denied. The Nanaimo RCMP feel that it's in the public's best interest for police to withhold the chauffeur's permit for Mr. Saint-Amour. As per the Motor Vehicle Section 36 Sub 5, the police are not considering whether Mr. Saint-Amour's charge of criminal harassment meets the burden of proof of beyond a reasonable doubt. We're just required to consider whether there is proof to our satisfaction, as it states in that section, that Mr. Saint-Amour may pose a risk to the public of Nanaimo in execution of his or her duties as a taxi driver in this city. In Mr. Saint-Amour's letter to Nanaimo City Council members, Mr. Saint-Amour blames the city and, quote, unqualified staff, unquote, for his rudeness and expletives he used while dealing with our front counter staff. Those are his words. Furthermore, Mr. Saint-Amour blames, quote, a fearful young lifeguard as well as incompetence on the RCMP's part, unquote, for his situation. He's not taken any accountability of himself for his involvement in any of this, the matters, and he's taken no that I'm aware of no attempts at apology either to the city staff or this young female. So the RCMP are concerned that his behavior and lack of insight into it will lead to further safety concerns should Mr. Saint-Amour be granted a chauffeur's permit.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? I see none. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next, the appellant may ask questions of the RCMP representative. Is the appellant prepared to ask questions of the RCMP representative?
I don't need any questions.
So if you'd like to come up to the there, sir, just a moment.
Yeah.
Perhaps you can sit down at that end chair there, please.
Okay, the denial of my chauffeur's permit, good evening anyways, was because of the charge of criminal harassment against me. I'm found now, and I was then not guilty of these charges. And they've been biased against me right from the beginning. this lifeguard had no proof of anything. There's not one charge or evidence of any proof I did anything wrong, and I had her up on the stand, and I asked the judge that, and she said, no, I didn't do nothing wrong. She had no proof that I was anywhere near her. And this is just, this has really got me going.
So I just need to stop for just a second here, sir. So you're here right now, at this moment, to ask any questions of the RCMP representative. Do you have any for him?
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just say one thing, though? I just want to say one
No,
thing.
do you have any questions for him?
No, I don't. I just want to
Okay.
make one statement about
No,
this.
do you have any questions for him? Let's take them one at a time.
Okay, the reason I swore at the police
No, do you have
station-
any questions for him,
Oh,
sir?
questions for him. No, I don't. No, I don't.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, sir. So the next item was for you to make representation to council, so please, go ahead.
Okay. The reason I'm denied this chauffeur's permit is because of this charge of criminal harassment, which I have been found not guilty of. So by law, I should be entitled to make a living with a chauffeur's permit. I had my chauffeur's permit in Vancouver, driving limousine for 5 years. No marks, nothing. And 20 years before now, I have not had any problems, nothing. So that's all I'm saying. They're using this trumped-up charge, which was a phony charge to start off with, to deny me my permit, which I think is unlawful. And even biased from the first day I've met them. I've lost 2 jobs because of their incompetence, and that's why I said it. They used this charge against me to go on my criminal record check for one job, for All Canada Moving. I lost that job, and then they took it off a week later, supposedly because, oh, we made a mistake. So I lost that job. Then I applied again, and they put that same charge, which I was found not guilty of, back on against me, which I was found not guilty of. So all I'm saying is I just want some fairness here. I want my right to make a living. And I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Does any member of council have any questions for the appellant? I see none. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay? Thank you.
Does the RCMP have any questions for the appellant? No, thank you. So it's, with the evidence in front of us, it's council's time to deliberate. Would council, would anyone be prepared to put a motion forward? Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm not prepared to put a motion at this time. I would prefer to get some additional legal advice if that is appropriate.
Okay, thank you. So, you're asking to go in camera to get some additional legal advice?
I will make that motion if appropriate, yes.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Brennan, thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have to take a recess, and we'll be going in camera to seek, approximately 5 minutes or so, to seek further legal advice. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for your patience. Council has had to seek legal guidance on this particular item. So council has considered it, and council at this point would like to make a motion. Councillor Brennan.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that council receive the staff report on the appeal of the denial of a chauffeur's permit to Mr. Robin St. Amour, including attachments.
Seconded by Councillor Bestwick. So as part of it, we're going to do them together or separately?
Separate.
Separately, okay. So, any discussion on receipt? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
And I would further move that council uphold the decision of the RCMP to deny the issuance of a chauffeur's permit to Mr. Robin St. Amour.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Brennan, seconded by Councillor Bestrick. Discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. So call the, so now we adjourn this hearing. Can I have a motion to adjourn the hearing?
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Kipp, seconded by Councillor Bestrick. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Can someone please get Councillor Armstrong? Thank you. Thank you, sir. The next item is the 2018 to 2022 Financial Plan Bylaw, to be introduced by Mr. Mema, Mr. Victor Mema. Mr. Mema.
Thank you, Worship. Tonight we are bringing to you for the legislative three readings the 2018-2022 Financial Plan Bylaw number 7253 for the three readings. Before you deliberate, just want to recap on a couple of things. Today is the culmination of a process that we started about a month and a half ago with meetings in the Finance and Audit Committee, where we spoke about departmental budgets, departmental projects, departmental goals for 2018. We also, on November 27, at the Committee of the Whole, unveiled the draft 2018-2022 financial plan, which, after you directed us to take a 3-week-long public engagement process, that led to the e-town hall on December 4, 2017. The theme for the 2017 to 2018 financial plan is demonstrating value through performance measurement. The theme sets us for a framework to transition to formal business planning beginning 2018 and also to modified zero-based budgeting starting with the 2019-2023 financial plan. This plan also has been informed by the 2016 to 2019 strategic plan with a number of projects, 5 in particular and 2 initiatives. We have also brought to you a number of bylaws to direct setting of user fees for municipal solid waste, Southwest Bulk Water Rate Amendment Bylaw, the Sewer Regulation and Charge Amendment Bylaw, and the Waterworks Rate Regulation Amendment Bylaw. Those bylaws have received their 3 readings and they are up for adoption today. With regards to the property tax supported programs, the cost pressures for 2018 have been estimated at 3.9%. You will recall that at the November 27th meeting, that number was 3.8, and through a number of changes in the deliberations, specifically relating to the funding of downtown response, that has gone up by 0.1% to 2.7. So the breakdown of the property tax rate increase is as follows. For 2018, the total is 2.7%, which includes 1% for general asset reserve contribution, which leaves for city programs and services an increase of 1.7%. The impact to a typical household, when you take together the user fee supported programs as well as the property tax supported programs, would equate to an increase of about 4.7% or $127 per year per household. Our typical household in Anamo would be a household with an assessment of $441,000, which would translate to about $11 increase per month for 2018. In the report that is in front of you, we've highlighted a few operating projects that are coming in play, as well as a few capital projects. And the detailed budget document is available on our website. The presentations that have been presented to Finance and Audit for each department have also been posted on our website. Today, should this receive your 3 readings, we would bring this for adoption at the next council meeting in early January. However, at this point, you are simply adopting the financial plan bylaw. You would be adopting the property tax bylaw at the end of Q1 in 2018. Deliberations and questions and discussions will continue at the Finance and Audit Committee for any follow-up questions that you might have until we get to a point of setting the property tax bylaw. The numbers that you see here only relate to the work that the city does. It does not include the increases or cost increases that would come from the RDN. Those would be brought to you when they become available, and we expect that should happen sometime in March 2018. With those comments, Your Worship, we recommend that you receive our report as well as give bylaw 2018-22 financial plan number 7253 the 3 readings. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Council, we've got 3 parts to this. First one, of course, if you've got any questions now for Mr. Mema on his opening statements. The second is we do have a delegation. And the third, we have the motions on the bylaw. So I would ask you to keep your debate to the comment section. So if there's no questions for Mr. Mema, I would ask that the delegation come forward. There's one delegation. Thank you, Mr. Don Bonner. And to confirm, 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, staff. Don Bonner, City of Nanaimo. Regarding this particular issue in front of us, I would like to recommend that Council not approve the 2018-2022 financial plan bylaw number 7253 until the public has had ample time to review and comment on it. Specifically, in the report received tonight, the 2018 operating budget highlights refers to LED street lighting implementation plan, cemetery records management software, and establishing treasury and risk management and in-house legal counsel sections. The public has never seen these items before. We have no idea what they are, what they're going to cost, and why they are being considered. The public has not been given an opportunity to present on these important items, and in fact, the public has not had the opportunity to review the administration and operations budget, as we can't seem to find that part of the budget on the city website as of this afternoon. Regarding today and the fact that this report has been brought forward in the addendum, I would like to remind Council regarding the Council Procedure Bylaw number 7060, late items 16.1. Essential items. These would include matters arising after the preparation of the agenda and which, if not acted upon in a timely manner, would prejudice or compromise the city's position or the position of a constituent or a group of constituents. These topics would be of legal or legislative nature only. Elective items. These would include matters which are purely administrative and require no background information to support them or provide additional information pertinent to items on the agenda. Since this is a rather important item of a budget, I don't believe this report should have been put in the addendum, and it should be brought back to Council so that the public has an opportunity to comment on it at a future date. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for the delegation? Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you. Not specific to question necessarily, but the 3 subject matters that you identified, the LED street lighting, the software, and in-house, I think, legal, is that what you
in-house
stated?
Legal counsel sections.
Thanks. The LED street lighting proposition, if you will, has been discussed, I think, for the better part of 3 years now with Councillor Hong's. At each and every meeting, practically, there's a discussion about LED street lighting and switching over for energy benefits, and our energy department has taken it upon themselves to determine whether or not we could or should do more front end, if you will, instead of stretching it all out for the savings factor. So I think that's been discussed, but perhaps not as robustly as you might like. The software situation, I think some of that is but I'm not positive. I'd have to ask for staff's confirmation. The software that we're going to be applying at Parks and Rec is a new program that we've purchased to replace the class system that's just gone out of business. And so it's a replacement for that system, and I believe that there's a considerable amount of training that's necessary. And the SAP system that we use internally for all of our finance, I think we're rolling that out because it's going to become redundant in several years, but you have to start, so I'm told, so earlier than later. And then the in-house council is something that I know in the times that I've been sitting on this council has been discussed about a service level that might be a benefit to this city and this council and the next one to have in-house staff versus external staff dealing with some of the legal requirements of a corporation of our size. It deals with a whole host of things, as you're very aware. So those are the three. I just wanted to try to have that communication with you, and that's the best response that I can provide to you at this point in time.
If I may, I'm not opposed to these items. You will notice that in the November COW meeting, none of these three items were mentioned when you were discussing the budget at that time. All I want is an opportunity for the public to be able to have a comment on these, find out more information about them, and then come back to council if they wish and make presentations on them. We're not given that opportunity because we heard about them Friday afternoon.
Thank you. Point well taken. By virtue of us passing three readings tonight, and I think Mr. Memma might have said in his preamble that we would have an opportunity by March Q1, March 31st, to make some amendments or adjustments. And I would assume that staff might take notice of these three subject matters and not action them per se. And I'm sort of speaking on behalf of myself right now, not action any of the three items until such time as they're responsibly discussed with the public somehow. So that at this point in time, that's probably the best that I can surmise. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's the best that I can surmise at this point in time.
Okay.
Thank you. I see no further questions, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the next item, of course, is a motion that council receive. Councillor Brennan.
The 2018 to 2022 financial plan bylaw. I'm not paying attention.
For information?
Yes.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Bestwick. Discussion. Councillor Fuller.
Through you to Mr. Memma. If I heard you correctly, this is just the financial plan bylaw, and fourth reading would take place sometime in January, either early or late January, which would give people time to ask questions with regards to those three items that were mentioned.
Through the chair, yes, that's correct.
And a follow-up to that, the property tax bylaw, when does that get adopted?
So we will adopt this before the May 15th deadline, and we usually come back after March 31st when we get the RDN.
And one follow-up to that. So that gives us roughly 5 or 6 months, or 5 months after the adoption of the bylaw to either raise or decrease that 2.7% with input from staff, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Or keep it the same.
That is up to council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you very much. Just a really brief comment that the scope and magnitude of this undertaking on an annual basis is significant, and I've said many times that I think that our financial plan is the most significant document that we have on an annual basis because it impacts each and every person and each and every household. And so the undertaking is something that we take extremely seriously. And when we think of a 2.7% increase, and I just look to our neighbors to the north in Lanceville that are 5.5%, and I think of how much time, effort, energy, work, collaboration, department to department, leadership, debate that we have to get to 2.6% when 1% of that is asset infrastructure, and that's just a done deal. And then 1% or a little greater than is wages and benefits compensation. So here we are, we're really talking about 0.6% of that we adjudicate and deliberate on to keep the budget where it is. And I'm certain that many people here at this table would like it to be significantly more than that. And I know that there's some people here that would like some of the money, the way that we spend it, spent differently. And those are all the deliberations that we have. Well, I don't want to spend it over here. I want to spend it over here. I don't want it spent over there. I want to spend it over there. And we have these debates, and we try to prioritize, and we try to look at our 5-year strategic plan, and we try to look at our official community plan, and we try to look out into our community through your lens and go, okay, what number kind of works when we've 2.2% of our 2.7% is spoken for? We don't adjudicate that. It's really just, it's our asset infrastructure, and it's our responsibility to our union and excluded staff. So now we're sitting there going, okay, how far can we go before there's a revolt, before there's pushback, before it's, what the hell are you doing? And so we started at 5-something. And I think everybody is trying to be as conscientious as possible to keep it affordable, because everybody's house values are going through the roof. So guess what? And then we're at the regional district, and so when we're going to go out there, we're going to add another 2.2 or 2.3% out there. And we'll collect it on the RDN's behalf and send it out there. So when we say your taxes are going up 2.7%, they're probably going up 4.5% to 5% after we do the application for the regional district. So at the end of the day, I think that all the time and effort and energy that goes into this isn't taken lightly at all. And there's none of us up here are going to bat 1,000 for everything that we'd like to do or not do. And so I think this might be the best budget that I've seen since I've been here, to be quite honest. So I'll be supporting the 3 readings tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd ask Council to, with all due respect, to take note of the motion that's on the floor right now. The motion on the floor is to receive the report. When we debate the items with respect to the bylaw itself, we'll wait till first, second, third reading. So, any other discussion on receiving the report? Councillor Thorpe? No? Councillor Brennan? Thank you. Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Councillor Brennan for the first reading.
That Council receive the 2018-2022 Financial Plan Bylaw number 7253 pass first reading.
Thank you. So it's moved by Councillor Brennan, seconded by Councillor Bestwick. Debate. Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you, Chair. I will support this. And as Councillor Bestwick said, it's the result of a lot of work from staff and a lot of debate from Council. For me, I will support it because there is an option to make changes as we move forward. For me personally, this is a minimal budget. The 1% for asset management is very important in my opinion. And the 1.7% for City of Nanaimo services programs, that to me does not even cover inflation. So I think we have done the best we can with pretty sharp pencils. So I'm willing to support this. I will voice a concern looking to the future years that 1.7 drops to 1.3, 1.1, 0.7, and I'm not sure that I will be able to support those numbers if I'm here in future. But that all being said, I will support the first reading of the bylaw tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Brennan.
Thank you. I have a question first for Mr. Mema, if I may, through you. Can you tell me what the consumer price index increase was for, I guess, 2017?
So through the chair, that would be a 2%. However, for the way we do our budget here, in some way, we're already in a modified zero-based budgeting. We look at trends, we look at agreements, look at projects or initiatives that we're taking, and we try and build this from zero and reallocate funds from here and there. And so I've always cautioned people from trying to tie the CPI to the increases. They're a good proxy because they indicate the general price increase, but what you're dealing with, obviously, is a construction index. It's your labor union agreements. And so that would be a different calculation for us. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess if I asked you the rate of inflation, I would probably get the same answer, cautioning me against that.
Sorry, I think I missed that.
I think you did. If I asked you about the rate of inflation, you'd probably give me a similar answer, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So are we expecting any decreases? Like when you do this extrapolation and you look into the future, does your crystal ball tell you that prices for the things we buy and the things we build are going down or are likely to go down?
I'm not sure he has a crystal ball.
So it's always driven by your strategic plans, driven by initiatives that you ask your staff to do. The majority of your budget is staffing, and you actually get those set through mandates, through negotiations, and that's the major piece of what you do. I can't tell where things will look like. We've made some projections in what we're looking at here. So if you notice, the outer years look like they look good. They are not necessarily good because as the closer we get to those years, there's more rigor in initiatives that we're doing. So at this point, I can project to say, given that the majority of the cost is labor, so I don't see any regression in costs.
But we're proposing a reduction in taxes. Yeah, okay. So I'm not going to support this budget. I'm going to kind of start at the top. I agree. I think we have to have more consultation. I get that it can happen after third reading. I would prefer that it happen before we do the readings, just so that we have some assurance that we are taking into account what the public, what their priorities are. I think sometimes our debates are thorough, but I think too often they take place enclosed, and I don't think that that's the best way to build your budget. True, we had Mr. Bonner talk about the problems he saw with it, and true, we could put a stop on those, but that's just one man's opinion. And I'm sure there are a variety of opinions about where we may have missed the boat on stuff. So truly, I would have liked to have had that consultation pre-Christmas for sure. I don't see enough in this budget for the relief of poverty, homelessness. I don't see really obvious strategies supported in this budget for those things, and that's of great importance to me. The urban problems that we're seeing, moving from a small town into a big town, I see there are lots of problems identified when we talk to our constituents and citizens, but I see very little in this budget. I see a very minor tip of the hat to the issues that we face in this environment. So for those reasons, I don't think that this budget really addresses the issues that I come to this table to represent.
Thank you. Councillor Fuller.
Consumer price index is about 2.2%, whether that means squat or not. I do agree that public input is needed. That public input has been available through our financial planning meetings, as well as on the city's website, I believe. So people have had that input, and people will still get the chance for more input. As I mentioned, and as has been confirmed, this is just the adoption of the financial plan. We could increase the budget, or our property taxes, over the next few months instead of sticking with the financial plan. And we could increase it by including far more stuff than already will be in it, and we are waiting for an affordable housing strategy, which once it does come out, is moving towards poverty reduction from the homeless right through to low-income individuals. So all that is in place, and there will be another 4 or 5 months where we will make that decision. I mean, personally, I would like to see us adding more money to property acquisition if we need to, because that's another means in which to work towards putting in more affordable housing for people. So I am going to support it, and I'll support it through all 3 readings. Whether I will support the final reading or not will depend on input from the community, and then whether I take it one step further and move and support the adoption of the property tax at the end of May is another story, because that still gives more time to discuss it. So I will support this.
Thank you. Councillor Brennan.
Well, I was just going to say that consultation after December kind of necessarily means that the changes made to the budget will be tinkering. They will not be fundamental. And I'm talking about a fundamental difference of opinion on what our budget should provide our citizens with.
Thank you. Councillor Kipp.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I have trouble supporting the budget. Just the amazing costs that's gone up in the 8 years I've been here. It's gone from about 140, 500, somewhere up to 200. We don't know what we're going to get from the RDM, but we kind of do know. I guess for me, this is a 5-year capital plan and 5-year financial plan. So we're not just dealing with next year. We're looking at pushing things out till 2022. And so from my perspective, if we're thinking we're going to change and take downloading, because a lot of the social issues, we have to continue to push the provincial and federal government for those issues of social unrest and social housing. And we have to consider what is the term for affordable housing? I mean, everybody talks about that. So when I see that being put into our budget, I believe we have to work with our partners on that, because although it is in our town and it is the stuff on our streets, we do have to be cautious, because we have a lot of things in infrastructure, and that's the reason the 1% is in this budget over time. We fought for it back in 2009 and 10 to get our infrastructure and get the... Now remember, we can spend more, but 20 years out, we're $250 million short on infrastructure funding right now. That has to be made up. So we can start spending more, and I can tell everybody I'll give you everything you want, but don't say anything to me when your taxes go through the roof 5-6% every year. So we have to be smart about it. We have to debate a little more about it. I agree with that. But this is a 5-year plan. This is just about next year. This is about the next 5 years rolling forward. And it's 5 times 2 is $1 billion that we're looking at here. If you count it, it's $1 billion over 5 years that we're going to raise our hands. And if I want to spend more money, it's got to come out of these pockets. And with the downturn of our economies, with the struggles we're having, I think we have to have a tight belt. I think we have to keep our infrastructure, our water, and things like that are very important to us, the social aspects of it. And when we view our budget, for me, it's financial, environmental, both human and natural, and social equity. That's how I try and view this budget. So for me, does it have everything I like it? I mean, I think we've worked hard on it, but I think I've worked hard on 10 budgets in my life, and it always seems to be the same. There's some people want certain things, others sitting around the table, we have some completely different values. And so for me, I'm having trouble supporting it just because of the cost. Oh, it's 2% more. Oh, let's go the cost of living. Let's go inflation. Well, right now, inflation in Vancouver is killing Vancouver. Inflation is killing Vancouver's housing market. Now, if you want to base everything on inflation, boy, there's stockbrokers and arbitrage men that just love that based on inflation because I can make it grow as much as I want. But for me, I think we have to keep a sharp pencil. And what we have done is broke down some silos, getting departments working together better. Efficiencies can always. And what I'd love to see is our staff, as the mayor mentioned the other day, putting events on at Bevan Park. Our staff promoting things. That hasn't happened. They wait for renters. So we have a way to change this budget. That's by going out and gaining some revenues and making sure our costing is efficient. So from my perspective, I can support this right now, but I'm having trouble because when I look down the road, we got sewer prices going up at 7%, water prices going up at 7%, garbage prices going up way beyond what we had considered. So we can spend a lot more, but people have to pay for it. So I have trouble with the budget just continuing to grow. And I don't see a lot of other services we're getting. So thank you.
Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you. I will be supporting the budget. I believe that all of our staff departments looked at what their priorities were. They came up with what I believe to be very doable priorities and things that I believe have to be done. Like to me, some of them are must-haves, such as the fire hall, et cetera. So we looked at, must-haves, nice-to-haves, and I believe that the budget prioritizes the must-haves and especially the reserve fund, which, we don't want to be hit with 20% tax increase because we don't have the dollars to do it 20 years from now. So I will be supporting the budget. Thank you.
Councillor Yocum.
Thank you. First, I'd like to state I will be supporting the budget as well. I like 2.7, then 2.3, 2.1, and downward from there. I always believed, even 3 years ago when I ran for council, there was enough in the kitty to get good work done. And when I hear social issues, I work in the social service sector and see lots of offloading happening. We have to do our diligence, but we also have to meet with governments to make that happen. I want to state on page 10 of our addenda is this weekend we were, and I like to, and I totally respect the citizens emailing numerous, I think it was in the hundreds when I was counting, well, in regards to NRE. It is not on one of those major capital projects for the simple fact is we haven't had a conversation for the fact, and I value the work of the NRE. I value what it does. But to make a sound decision, we need to see the financials and the business plan. So therefore, it's not on there. I'm bringing that up because we're talking finances, and that could potentially be on there as well. Possibly will be, possibly won't be. We wanted to state, though, if we had the conversation on it, it probably would be one of those bullets, but it is not at this point. So I wanted the citizens to realize I haven't seen any business plan or numbers. I don't know if you guys have, but so there's been no conversation on that. So in fairness to that conversation. So I look forward to it, though, and see where we can go from there. I'm also the increase in some of the user rates. For example, the garbage has gone up, but we all know what that's for. The garbage trucks that were needed and all the new garbage bins. And that's debatable if we need it or not, but nevertheless, we have it today. So that's the user rates, I think, will stay in check. So now we did a big capital purchase. So I will be supporting this budget, and I think we keep the tax rates where they are. It's beneficial for all citizens of the Nanaimo, and keep it, there's a set amount where the city have to work with, and it keeps everything in check. So I want to share that. The capital projects may change, I don't know. But nevertheless, I'm pleased with the work of Ms. Samra and Mr. Memo on this. Thank you. And staff.
Thank you very much. So just for the purpose of explaining to the public, I want to ask Mr. Mem a question, just so that it goes out there to the gallery and to the folks that are watching tonight. What we're talking about here is the 5-year financial plan, separate and distinct, but contained within is our 2018 budget. Can you confirm for the public and the folks in the gallery tonight that there will be many more discussions between now and the adoption of the 2018 budget?
So, through the chair, so what you have in front of you is the 5-year plan, which contains the 2018 budget. What we have done right now is we are asking you to adopt what we would call a provisional financial plan, which would precede the approval or the adoption of the property tax bylaw. So, like I said in my initial comments, the way we've structured this is we want to have a budget come January 1st or close by, so we can move along and be ahead of construction season and begin to implement some of these projects and initiatives. But we will remain open for discussions on initiatives and changes that may come from members of council, members of the public through the finance and audit. And so the budget is subject to change. Even when you finally get your property tax bylaw, it becomes difficult after that. But before that, you can actually make changes to this financial plan and budget. But once you set your rates, you only go once to collect money. And so we're looking forward, I think, to more engagement in Q1 as we move forward. But as of today, we are simply asking for the approval of the financial plan, which includes the 2018 budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Semra?
Thank you, Your Worship. Over the last 2 months, there's been probably a dozen meetings with Council in various forms about your budget. And I would just want to draw to your attention that my phone is not ringing, that there's an ability to make substantive changes to the budget throughout the year. And I'm going to give you 2 examples of initiatives that Council approved in 2017 that weren't part of your budget. The first instance is the purchase of the School District 68 properties and the construction of the artificial turf, which are over $2 million worth of expenditures that weren't in the budget. A second initiative that you approved that wasn't in the budget, totaling nearly $8 million, was the change to automation. And I draw both of those to your attention because they weren't in the budget, and during the year, Council decided that those expenditures were important enough that they wanted to move forward with them, and staff came forward with ways to use our different reserves and borrowing capacity to do those types of projects. So substantive decision-making continues post-January 1st. You have 3 areas where you'll engage in that this year. First, that is in the social wellness and community safety portfolio. You had a selection of activities totaling over $250,000 that you wish to take a look at, and you've directed staff to come back to give you options and strategies for investing $250,000 or more in the social wellness and community safety portfolio. We've also recommended setting aside over $300,000 on an annual basis for pedestrian safety. And again, Council is able to take a look at those in the first quarter of 2018. And in addition to what staff recommends as its safety and risk management and asset management program, Council has asked staff to give them ability to deal with these types of issues. So there are substantive decision-making points to occur in the first quarter of 2018 within this budget that are in the social wellness and downtown vitality and public safety areas. So 2 examples from last year where you made decisions to alter your budget and it resulted in amendments, and 3 that are on your horizon that I can think of off the top of my head, and there's probably a few more within this budget.
Thank you very much. Councillor Brennan.
I was just going to say that I wondered if most of the examples given by Ms. Zamra in defense of this budget are capital projects. Or last year were capital projects. No, it's a statement that I'm making. Thank you. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, prior to getting the answers to my questions, we're asked to do long-range planning as a municipal corporation. The provincial government wants to see strategic plans. They want to see 5 years financial plans. They want to see long-term asset management, and they're really going to be pressuring us and municipalities across BC to ensure they have sustainable long-term asset management plans. So I understand the distinction between the budget, 2018 budget, which is contained within this, and there are possibilities that we could find ourselves with other projects that will come as a wee bit of a surprise to us, downloaded on us by senior levels of government. And I can give you 3 examples off the top of my head that were not choices made by us, but were dictated to us. The first one was a $72 million water treatment plant. There's no denying that what comes out of that plant is beautiful product. We thought we had great water. Senior level government said no. If you had a 5-year, if someone, when they made the 5-year plan prior to that, that certainly wasn't contemplated. At the Regional District of Nanaimo, we were told by a senior level of government that primary treatment of your effluent is not good enough. You need to do secondary treatment. That's an $83 million bill, of which is going to be absorbed 99% by the City of Nanaimo. And of course, the third one, more contentious, which was a direct result of a decision and an order by the demand by a senior level of government, of course, was the rehabilitation of the colliery dams. All 3 of them out of the blue weren't reflected in any financial plans, and we have to be prepared for that in the future. We have no idea in the think tank in Ottawa or in Victoria what other expenses they're dreaming up that we should be paying next. But I will support the 5-year financial plan. Councillor Brennan?
No.
Okay, thank you. So there's a motion on the floor.
I can't.
It has, pardon?
Still on mine. Is it?
Clear the queue. Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Show Councillor Brennan opposed. Councillor Brennan for the next one.
Number 7253 pass second reading.
It's been moved by Councillor Brennan, seconded by Councillor Bestwick. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Show Councillor Brennan opposed. Motion carries.
And that 2018-2022 financial plan bylaw number 7253 pass third reading.
Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Bestwick. Discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Show Councillor Brennan opposed. Thank you. Next item. Advisory Committee minutes. First one is minutes of Parks, Rec and Wellness Committee. Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you. It's so moved that the Parks, Recreation and Wellness Committee meeting held April 26, 2017 be introduced to be received.
Thank you. Seconder? Seconded by Councillor Thorpe. Thank you. Discussion? Errors or omissions? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Now, as Councillor Hong's not here, perhaps I'll get Councillor Brennan to read, to introduce the next 3 items. Minutes of the Design Advisory Panel meeting held on Thursday, September 14th.
The minutes of the Design Advisory Panel meeting held on Thursday, September
Second.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Brennan, seconded by Councillor Bestwick. Any discussion, errands, or omissions? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
And that the minutes of the Youth Advisory Council meeting held on Wednesday, September 20th, 2017 be approved.
Thank you. Seconder? Seconded by Councillor Armstrong. Any discussion, errors, or omissions? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
That the minutes of the Design Advisory Panel meeting held on Thursday, November 9th, 2017 be approved.
Thank you. Seconder? Seconded by Councillor Bestwick. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, committee recommendations. The first one, pardon me, to be introduced by Councillor Bestwick.
Would so move that the Finance and Audit Committee recommendation of December 13, 2017, that the Finance and Audit Committee recommends that Council approve the 2018 Social Response and the 2018 Community Vitality Grant recommendations subject to budget approval.
Second, okay, it's been moved by Councillor Bestwick, seconded by Councillor Thorpe. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Electoral area fees. Councillor Bestwick? Sure.
That the Finance and Audit Committee recommend that Council direct staff to return to Council with a report in order, with a mandate to negotiate new fees with electoral areas.
Is there a seconder?
Second.
Seconded by Councillor
Not correct.
Kip. Thank you. Ms. Samra?
I don't believe the motion's correct because I'm the one that proposed the motion. And the parameters of it were that the agreements and bylaws in place with the historic relationship between the regional district of Nanaimo and the city of Nanaimo have largely been spent, and that council, we wanted to come back to council with a report outlining options how to engage with the RDN on parks and recreation generally within the RDN and the city of Nanaimo. So it wasn't specific to fees to be paying for anything. It was more the overall relationship and agreements between RDN and the city. So I think that those minutes do need to be amended to reflect that sentiment.
My recollection of the Finance and Audit Committee meeting was that the Finance and Audit Committee recommend to Council, which is one and the same, that we direct staff to review our agreements with our electoral area partners for consideration and renegotiation potentially, as I believe that some are expiring or have expired. And so the necessity, or will expire this year, so the necessity to get ahead of this is important. If we want to wordsmith a different motion here, I think we should do that now, as opposed to waiting till January the 8th or whenever we meet again. So I would therefore, with a friendly amendment, recommend that Council direct staff to engage and review the RDN electoral area stakeholder agreements and return to Council in early 2018 with a report on its findings. And the inference, of course, is to go as deep as you need to go to be able to come back and give us adequate information to make decisions.
Correct, and we'd be seeking a mandate from you. So you'd get the report, see what the findings were, and provide staff with a mandate before we went out and negotiated.
So does that touch on the salient points in order to do that for you? Or do we need more wordsmithing, or can we just proceed with the new motion? Okay. If Sky says it's okay, it's okay.
Okay, so before we move along, I need the clerk to advise, there was no motion on the floor.
Yes,
There was. That had been moved and seconded on this item. Who seconded it? Okay, thank you. Councillor Brennan on debate.
Well, okay, I guess it's looking for some information. These recommendations are coming from the December 13th Finance and Audit Committee. Is that correct?
Correct.
So I can't find it in the agenda from those days, from the 13th. Can someone help me, direct me to it?
Agenda or motion from the
Well,
from
it
the
would have had
minutes?
to have been on the agenda, would it not?
No,
Oh, okay.
no,
So somebody just made a motion.
that's correct.
Okay. Can you read it to me then, please?
Staff to engage and review with the RDN electoral areas, stakeholder agreements, and return in early 2018 with a report on findings.
Can someone give me some sort of background and reasoning for this? Like, what is the issue we're trying to correct?
I'll do my best. For those that were in attendance at the meeting, we discussed at length the contributions from our electoral areas, whom all are growing in significant ways in population. And while their contributions to our facilities is expiring, and our costs to operate these facilities are increasing exponentially, and it's appropriate and timely for us to undertake a review of the negotiated contracts that we have with our external partners. And the time to do that is now, given where the contracts are. So we need to do this. Mr. Harding at Parks and Rec supports this endeavor. Our finance staff supported that we do this undertaking, and they asked for a motion and direction to come from the Finance and Audit Committee to give them direction to go out and do this undertaking.
Thank you. I'll support this, but I really would like some paper trails on these kinds of recommendations, and when they don't appear on an agenda, but a significant motion like this is made, it is problematic to be able to track these decisions, but I will support it.
Thank you. Ms. Samra, you're in the queue.
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bestwick, was there anything further you wish to speak? You're still on.
Sorry, no, I didn't mean to be honest.
Thank you. I need to ask a question with respect to this one, and that is, it uses the term electoral areas, and I'm not that it makes much difference because we're asking for a report, but I prefer to think of it as the RDN participating members. So in other words, they make contributions to us, we make contributions to them. So Parksville will also be, and Qualicum and so on and so forth. So if the movers don't mind, mover and seconder don't mind changing the motion to take out the word electoral areas and replace with the term RDN participating members.
Absolutely.
Great, thank you. Great, thank you. So, that being said, it's been moved and seconded. Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
The next one, number 3, under the committee recommendations, is a response to health, social, and safety issues in the downtown, and that the Finance and Audit Committee recommend 2 recommendations. Approve up to $60,000 for safety and security provisions in the downtown. Would you care for them separately, or would you like them together?
Together.
Together? And direct staff to return to council with a report on the balance of funds by March 30th, 2018. And contained inside the report is the balance of funds, but it's plus or minus $200,000.
Okay. So, making the motion, Councillor Bestwick, pardon me, and then Councillor Kipp seconding. Thank you. So it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. The next item is the appointment of alternate director to the Regional District of Nanaimo Board. And Ms. Snellgrove, you're on.
Yes, so the Regional District of Nanaimo requires a formal appointment of an alternate director to the RDN Board. Councillor Armstrong is recommended as the alternate, as she's the only member of council not currently on the board, and the appointment term is until the end of council's term, November 4th, 2018.
Thank you. Thank you. Can we have a motion? Thank you. Moved by Councillor Thorpe, seconded by Councillor Bestwick. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is under Public Services, and that is the Waterfront Walkway Final Plan, to be introduced by Mr. Dale Lindsay, Director of Community Development. And the purpose is to present Council the final Waterfront Walkway Implementation Plan. Mr. Lindsay.
Thank you, Your Worship. Staff was for you, I believe it was early in November where we presented the plan. Actually, Mr. Corson was here that evening and was the project lead on this program and outlined the plan to you. And at that time, we were sent away to meet with committees and to allow opportunity for public engagement. And I think we were somewhat challenged by that time by council to get back in front of you before the end of the year. So I'm pleased to say that we've completed those tasks. We've been through the committees. The committees have endorsed the plan, so we're back in front of you tonight simply seeking an endorsement for the Waterfront Walkway Implementation Plan.
Thank you. Can we have a motion from a member of council to get it on? Thank you.
Second.
Moved by Councillor Brennan, seconded by Councillor Thorpe. Discussion. Seeing none, call the Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you. Mr. Lindsay, if you can bear with me, we've removed one of the pieces of this for tonight's agenda.
Not from the Waterfront Walkway Plan. I think possibly what you're referring to is the master plan for One Port Drive is what was removed from the agenda.
So there's no overlap, or there's no by not addressing them both, so is there no overlap whatsoever in relation to the two plans?
There's certainly some overlap, Your Worship. There's the waterfront plan talks in general terms about having the waterfront walkway continue through the property. The master plan, when it's brought forward, you'll see a greater level of detail, which you should expect through sort of those local area master plans. So we'll be happy to bring that forward and discuss it hopefully at the next council meeting.
Thank you. And thank you for your indulgence. That was going to be my next question. When will that plan come to us? Is it early in January, or?
We'll work through the clerk's office for our agenda planning, but it's available for the next council meeting if there's room on that agenda, yes.
Thank you. I would hope we make room.
Here, Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, I certainly will support this, and I just want to express once again thanks to Mr. Lindsay and all of our staff who've worked on this. It's a huge project. It's going to take a long time to complete it in its entirety, but I think the public have told us that it is a priority and people want to see this proceed. I'm really pleased that it is, and I'm especially happy with the phasing in and the quick wins that hopefully we can accomplish in the coming year. So I'll certainly support it. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's been moved and seconded. Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, development permit application number DP 1080 at 3062 Hammond Bay Road, to be introduced by Mr. Dale Lindsay, Director of Community Development.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is a watercourse development permit specifically to allow for alteration of the existing landscaping within the aquatic setback. At present, much of the area between the home and the ocean is actually lawn. The applicants are proposing to modify a portion of that lawn area to put in a hard landscaping. In exchange, they're proposing the removal of some invasive plants that are on the property and replacing them with native species. The review that's been done by the biologist indicates that through this process there will be no net loss in habitat and actually improvements to the ecological functions along the foreshore.
Thank you very much. Questions for Mr. Lindsay before we get into debate? Questions for Mr. Lindsay? Councillor Bestwick.
Yes, please, thank you. I will be supporting the staff recommendation, but that said, when I read kitchen, I have no problem with the deck. I have no problem with the quote-unquote encroachment in the riparian area because it is what it is. It's a different topography and so on. When I see kitchen, you will be able to tell me that that's not a covered living space. It's sort of an outdoor grandiose, because when I read kitchen, it says a different thing to me than a barbecue and something on a deck. So I just want to ensure that we understand what kitchen is in this case. Thank you.
Your Worship, it is intended to be an outdoor living space. Maybe would have been a better description of the area, but definitely not covered, definitely outside of the walls of the existing building.
Thank you very much. Is there someone prepared to move a recommendation? Moved by Councillor Brennan and seconded by Councillor Yocum. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Yeah. So we had it's now 8:50. It's about 10 minutes ahead of schedule. We have a recess for 9 o'clock. So we know the next item is going to be fairly lengthy. So I would suggest that everybody stand up, take a walk around, take a break. We'll be recessing for 10 minutes. We'll be back at 9 p.m. Thank you. Now? If council would take your seats, please. I'm being told by the official timekeeper that it is time. Councillor Thorpe, would you please go into the Rispin room and tell them that the meeting is reconvened? Ladies and gentlemen, if you'd please take your seats. We have a quorum of council. We're going to continue the meeting. So the next item on the agenda is the official community plan amendment application number OCP 83 at 5260, 5280, and 5300 Tanya Drive. And it's to be introduced by Mr. Dale Lindsay, Director of Corporate Development. Mr. Lindsay.
Thank you, Worship. As you mentioned, this is an official community plan amendment for 3 properties off of Tanya Drive. Currently, these 29.3 hectares are in the urban reserve. The application before you is to move them from the urban reserve into the neighborhood designation. At present, the official community plan speaks to a comprehensive area plan being completed prior to the redesignation of these lands or the removal of these properties from the urban reserve. Council may recall, I believe it was 2015, there was a request at that time from the landowners to move ahead with a comprehensive plan in advance of the schedule outlined in the OCP. Council denied that request, and subsequently they've made this independent application. The application's been reviewed by the Planning and Development Committee, who are recommending that the application be denied. Staff concur with the recommendation of the committee and also recommend that this application be denied.
Thank you. So we have 7 delegations on this matter. Each one of them will have 5 minutes, and you will have opposing views of the delegations. Therefore, I ask that you not interrupt the delegations, that there be no applause, And there be no booing and no jeering. So the first delegation is Mr. Brent Hargreaves. Mr. Hargreaves.
Mr. Mayor, I wonder if I could request a reordering of the delegations. There are 4 delegations that should follow in natural order, and they came in different times and therefore are now out of order. The 4 that I'm requesting are Susan Juby, myself, Yvonne Leduc, and Vicki Adamson. Those 4 follow, and it doesn't matter when they happen, but just that the 4 follow in that order.
So, Mr. Hargreaves, you're requesting that it start with Ms. Juby?
Yes.
Followed by?
Myself, followed by Yvonne Leduc, and follow the 4th as Vicki Adamson.
I will ask Council, what's your pleasure? Councillor Bestwick moving, Councillor Brennan seconding. Any discussion from Council? Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. All right. So the first delegation will be Susan Juby. And on this particular item, I would ask that you provide your name and address, please.
Certainly. My name is Susan Juby. I live at 201 Woodhaven Drive in Nanaimo, and I'm a local writer and the founding member of Save Lindley Valley's Hidden Ridge. And just for background, my husband and I had moved here in 2002, and we were partly attracted by the superb park system this city has to offer. And when we discovered Lindley Valley, we thought, oh my God, it's Stanley Park in our backyard. So we were thrilled. And Save Lindley's Hidden Ridge began in January 2017, after I saw a development application posted at the end of Tanya Drive. And I investigated and realized that very much of what I thought was park, bluffs and ridges and forest, was actually private land. And so I posted a lot of little signs notifying park users about the proposed development. And from that initial contact, we formed a steering committee, me, Yvonne Leduc, Vicki Adamson, Cynthia Spencer, Ron Clark, and Marilyn and Brent Hargreaves. And we all live in different parts of the North End, but we share a deep love of Lindley Valley and of the neighborhoods surrounding Lindley Valley. And we're here tonight asking you essentially to save this area. As you will hear, there are significant problems with the application to amend the official community plan and with the proposed development. First, it's not consistent with many of the goals and policies of Nanaimo's official community plan, as we will detail. Second, it threatens the ecological integrity of the existing Lindley Valley Caudle Lake Park and Lost Lake Park. And third, it poses a host of safety and livability issues to the neighborhoods around it. For our campaign activities, we have members of our steering committees and volunteers from all across Nanaimo have worked tirelessly to raise awareness about the issue facing the valley. We have created a website and maintain an active Facebook page. We've published a newsletter to keep people informed. And through the spring and summer and fall, our members and volunteers set up farmers markets all around Nanaimo, where we have met and talked with hundreds of people who also share our concerns. We've put on a variety of free community events in the Lindley Valley, including for the public, including a nature writing workshop, photography workshop, dance and movement workshop, an evening hike followed by a rousing session of bagpiping. So these events were attended by people from all over the city. One of them was even attended by a cooperative owl, very inspiring. And we've led dozens of walks through the park. We've also done extensive research and analysis of the proposal, the official community plan, and city bylaws. Our findings are all available in the report that we have shared with you, and we've also made available to the public. And those findings have made us more convinced than ever that this area needs to be protected. And finally, we've done door-to-door canvassing. Many volunteers helped with this effort, during which we distributed our notice, Your Voice Matters, and had people sign our petition. We began canvassing only at the beginning of October, and we started with the areas, you can see them in blue there, around the subject properties. We found the vast majority of people were eager to sign our petition, and our efforts continued to gain momentum. So we have a petition request. Our petition request calls on members of City Council and staff to reject the developer's application to amend the OCP to remove the 72 acres of Tanya Drive properties from the urban reserve so it can be rezoned for a steep slope subdivision. Work with the citizens of Nanaimo to develop a comprehensive plan for Lindley Valley and surrounding neighborhoods, and add the 72 acres of the Hidden Ridge to the existing Lindley Valley Caudle Lake Park. So our petition, as you can see from the charts, the petition has thus far gathered, as of last Friday, we had 2,420 signatures, 1,555 on paper, 865 online. As of today, this minute, we have 2,712 signatures. 80% of those signatories are Nanaimo residents. The majority of the rest are from Vancouver Island. 56% of the signatures, the people live in North Nanaimo. 45% are from other areas of Nanaimo, of the Nanaimo residents who signed. So this is a clear indication that all of Nanaimo cares about the well-being of Lindley Valley Park and the surrounding neighborhoods. And during our canvassing, 80% or more of the residents that we spoke to immediately signed that petition. So further, all of us on the steering committee and volunteers have been approached by members of the public asking to get involved, to sign the petition, give time, donate funds to buy the park. And so we feel like the citizens have spoken during our campaign. Our research, petition results, and the countless conversations we've had with people all over this city indicate that the citizens of Nanaimo do not support this OCP application amendment and don't support the proposed development of these lands. It should be noted that those of us on the steering committee are not anti-development. Instead, we believe that smart, careful development is the key to a healthy, vibrant city. What's being proposed here, however, is the wrong development in the wrong place. Lindley Valley Caudle Lake Park is one of Nanaimo's most treasured assets, and it was created through the tremendous efforts and forethought of previous citizens groups and councils, and it's our hope to see it expanded rather than destroyed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the delegation? Seeing none? Oh, Councillor Fuller.
Quick question. When you did the bagpiping, did you do it up at the top of the bluff so that it overlooked the whole of the
Overlooking
valley?
Cascara Drive. It was magnificent. Next time, I hope
Awesome.
you'll come. Yeah.
I wish I had been invited because I love the bagpipe.
Okay. Maybe we'll make it an annual event.
Thank you, Ms. Juby. The next one is Mr. Hargreaves.
Good evening. My name is Brent Hargreaves, and I live at 5311 Tanya Drive for the last 25 years.
Thank you.
I am part of the Save Lindley's Hidden Ridge campaign, and I'm also a member of the Lost Lake Neighborhood Association. Tonight I want to show how this OCP amendment application does not comply with the goals and policies of Nanaimo's official community plan, and also poses safety and livability issues in the surrounding neighborhoods. Nanaimo's official community plan states that an area plan is required before urban development is permitted within an urban reserve area. The 3 properties included in this OCP amendment application are located in the urban reserve, and they're also in part of the Long Lake planning area. No area plans currently exist for either of these areas. So council approval of this OCP amendment would contravene a major OCP policy. Approval of this application is not consistent with other OCP goals and policies as well. For example, Goal 5 of the OCP is to protect and enhance our environment. The proposed high-density development would require most of the 72 acres to be deforested and the extensive wetlands re-engineered, like you see in these photos in front of you. Council approval of this type of development would destroy most or all of the forest and natural ecosystems in this area. The OCP states that under existing zoning, there is enough service land, either vacant or underutilized, to house the overall projected housing demand out to the year 2031. City staff have confirmed to us that there are currently at least 1,200 acres of vacant land in Nanaimo that are already zoned for neighborhood and available for development. So there's no need to develop this land in the urban reserve at this time. The OCP also states that anyone applying to amend the OCP must meet at least once with neighborhood residents. A city staff member will attend this meeting. The developer has not met this OCP requirement. Only one public meeting was held by the developer. This meeting was not properly advertised and was not attended by any city staff. People who attended this meeting faced long lineups to even get into the room and were annoyed about the limited amount and poor quality of the information that was provided. The developer has not held any other public meeting since submitting this revised application. The OCP amendment application submitted by the developer also has many deficiencies. For example, the servicing report says that a new water tower and pumping station will be required, but does not provide any cost estimates for that. The development concept plan that was submitted has roads running through ponds, running through riparian setbacks, and wildlife corridors on the properties. And there is no public parking to access the park. The developer did not provide a tree management plan, and the transportation safety and traffic report that was submitted is based on traffic counts along Lost Lake Road for 1 hour on 1 day. The field sampling reported in the environmental assessment was not sufficient to identify the seasonal and spatial variation in either plants or animals. Regarding neighborhood safety, the potential negative impacts on safety and livability are major concerns for the residents who live in the neighborhoods that would be most affected by this OCP amendment and proposed development. We have talked to literally hundreds of Nanaimo residents during our door-to-door canvassing campaign. Local residents told us that they were most concerned about the massive increase in traffic that would result and increased risk to pedestrians, especially children. Residents were also concerned that Tanya Drive is the only access road to the proposed development. The elevation of this area results in very heavy snowfalls, and Tanya Drive is sometimes blocked for several days, as you can see in the upper right picture there. A secondary access road is also necessary if there are traffic accidents or if evacuation routes are required for spills, forest fires, earthquakes, or other disasters. The dangerous road junction at Tanya Drive and Lost Lake Road is also a concern even at this point. Hundreds more vehicles would approach this every day if the development went ahead. Citizens were also concerned about school access and child safety. There is no public transit on Lost Lake Road or Tanya Drive. Excuse me. Rutherford Road is scheduled to close in 2018. The closest elementary and secondary schools will then be more than 2 kilometers away from the proposed development. So children from the proposed development would have to walk at least 2 kilometers to and from school or be transported each day by vehicle. There are no sidewalks along Lost Lake Road for 3 kilometers, and the limited shoulders, narrow road, sharp turns.
Your time is up, sir. You need to wrap up.
Okay, I have just one more here. So finally, the other major concern we heard from both our door-to-door canvassing and outdoor online petition is about the many negative impacts the proposed development would have on the natural environment and ecosystems in Lindley Valley. If allowed to proceed, this proposed development will irreparably damage the ecosystems of the entire Lindley Valley. It will severely diminish the cultural and recreational value of the urban wilderness that Nanaimo has assembled to create Lindley Valley Caudle Lake Park. So, on behalf of Save Lindley's Hidden Ridge, including the more than 2,700 citizens who have now signed our petition, and also on behalf of all the residents who live in the neighborhoods that would be affected by this development, I ask that Council reject this OCP amendment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now, questions for the delegation. I have one, excuse me, one question. You made a point with respect to 1,200 acres, or was it 1,800 acres?
It's 72 acres that are part of this amendment.
No, that there were currently between 1,200 and 1,800. Can you please refresh my memory on that one? For clarifying
that one for you, sir. Yeah, we asked city staff to give estimates of the amount of developable land in the city, and they said that there were at least 1,200 acres of vacant land within Nanaimo that are within the urban containment boundary that are already zoned as neighborhood and available for development.
Thank you very much. That was the clarification I was looking for. Thank you. I see no further questions.
Thank you.
The next delegation is Yvonne Leduc.
Good evening. My name is Yvonne Leduc. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I live in a rental suite at 5313 Cascara Drive, and like many renters, I use Lindley Valley as my backyard. The environmental assessment provided by the developer for this application is inadequate to fully understand the ecological value of the Hidden Ridge properties. Therefore, I would like to take you on a virtual walk through Lindley Valley to show you what we are at risk of losing. Here we are at the purple dot on the map, next to the 3 properties that are the subject of this application. Numerous wetlands exist on these properties. Water is captured at these higher elevations where we are standing and flows both above ground and below ground through many streams, ponds, and creeks into Lost Lake and Cottle Lake, and eventually into the ocean at Departure Bay. Historically, wetlands have been grossly undervalued, but they are vital to our social, economic, and ecological health. We cannot afford to lose more of them. For this reason, the Wetlands Stewardship Partnership, a group that includes all levels of government, is working to protect and conserve wetlands in BC. From the purple dot, we enter the forest and immediately find ourselves at a large wetland. This past summer, 2 at-risk species were observed here, a frog and a snail. The Lindley Valley wetlands are favorite habitat for birds too, including several at-risk species, such as the great blue heron, which has been observed on the subject properties. We now turn east and hike up a ridge, encountering rocky outcrops covered in thick moss and lichens and dotted with arbutus. Soon we enter a canopy of Douglas fir with an understory of dull Oregon grape. This rare plant community has been red-listed by the provincial government. Red-listed communities are at the greatest risk of being lost. As you can see by the blue area on the map, this plant community covers a significant portion of the subject properties as well as the Lindley Valley. Large parts of this area have already been lost to residential development. Lindley Valley is situated in the coastal Douglas fir ecosystem, an ecosystem rich in plant diversity that has the greatest number of at-risk plant species, but less than 1% of it remains. In recognition of the urgent need for conservation, this year, as you know, the city joined the Coastal Douglas Fir Conservation Partnership. 2 other red-listed plant communities have also been identified on the subject properties. They contain lodgepole pine, arbutus, and grand fir. Continuing east along the Hidden Ridge, we notice the many large arbutus, cedar, and Douglas fir trees. Some are at least 400 years old, and they fit the city's definition of a significant tree. We skirt the edge of Lost Lake Park, enter Lindley Valley Park, and descend to the valley bottom, where some of the trails are flooded in the winter. We arrive at Cottle Lake, where the great blue heron and river otters hunt, and local and migratory birds feed and reproduce. Both Cottle Lake and Lost Lake contain fish. Natural areas such as Lindley Valley provide many services to our city and its citizens. For example, wetlands are very good at storing carbon. Forests help purify air, soil, and water. Temperature extremes are moderated by topography and vegetation. Heavy rainfall is absorbed by vegetation, ponds, and soil, and then safely channeled and gradually released. Along these trails are people walking, biking, jogging, exercising their dogs, playing with their children, observing birds, sitting in silence beside a wetland, or greeting neighbors and friends. Safeguarding these services for everyone's future fulfills many of Nanaimo's official community plan policies. Lindley Valley and its parks are a valuable urban reserve and watershed in the heart of North Nanaimo. The City of Nanaimo, its citizens, and the Nanaimo and Area Land Trust were visionary in protecting the 400 acres that currently make up the park. However, the integrity of this valley is under assault from every direction in the form of developments such as this one just a few blocks away. Whatever impacts the valley will also impact the park and our investment in it because it's all interconnected. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Armstrong.
Just a question for you, or if not you, maybe through to staff, through your worship. Is there any birds that would fall under the Migratory Birds Convention Act in that area that you're aware of?
I'm not sure, but there's several listed at-risk birds in Lindley Valley, and the blue heron was observed on the subject property.
Through to staff, was that looked at when the report was done, if any of the species that have been identified? I know that the university went out and did something because the way I read the Migratory Birds Convention Act, if they are in that area, I don't believe we can do anything to hurt their habitat.
Through your worship, Councillor Armstrong, I'm sorry I'd have to go back and review the original studies that were possibly done in 2013 when the city, in fact, purchased a good part of Lindley Valley. But off the top of my head, I'm sorry I couldn't answer.
Okay, no, that's fine. I can follow up. I just wondered. Thank you very much.
Thank you. No further questions. Thank you. So the next delegation is Vicki Adamson.
Hello, my name is Vicki Adamson and I live at 5291 Tanya Drive. I'm also a member of Save Lindley's Hidden Ridge Steering Committee and have lived in Nanaimo for over 50 years, and 26 of them have been in the Tanya Drive area. Over those years, my family and I have enjoyed Lindley Valley for its recreational opportunities and for its incredible beauty. I'm here tonight out of concern for the future of Lindley Valley. Councillors, Lindley Valley has two possible futures, which are now in your hands. If you approve the amendment before you, then this will be Lindley's Hidden Ridge fate. As you have heard from Yvonne, this development will have serious negative ecological impact on the entire Lindley Valley, not just the subject area. These sensitive wetland and forest areas are a crucial habitat for many plants and animals residing in the valley. And Brent outlined for you the many negative safety and livability impacts this development would have for the citizens of the area. Traffic, access, fire hazards, school, and costs. If you reject the OCP amendment and the proposed development of these lands, then this will be the future of Lindley Valley. These beautiful pictures speak for themselves. Lindley's Hidden Ridge will greatly enhance the cultural and recreational value of the forest that the Nanaimo City Council has assembled to create Lindley Valley Caudle Lake Park. On behalf of the citizens of Nanaimo, we are asking you tonight to reject the developer's application to amend the OCP, to work with the citizens of Nanaimo to develop a comprehensive plan for Lindley Valley and the surrounding neighborhoods, and to add the 72-acre Hidden Ridge land to the existing Lindley Valley Caudle Lake Park. It's not just us, Lindley's Hidden Ridge Steering Committee, asking you for this, but rather the 2,712 people that have, many who are residents of Nanaimo, who have signed these petitions with these three requests. The amount of signatures collected demonstrates that saving Lindley's Hidden Ridge is of high importance to our community. By far, the top two concerns were the loss of the pristine piece of our natural world and the negative ecological impact the steep slope development would have on the existing park below. In 2014, the City Council of the day was interested in acquiring the property at 5260 Tanya Drive to add to the existing park, and approved $2 million for that purchase. The sale did not go through. We are asking you tonight to consider approving monies again to acquire this land. We are also asking you to explore possible federal and provincial contributions that could be accessed. During a meeting with MLA Leonard Krogh, he expressed support and interest in exploring government options. He subsequently wrote a letter of support to you for acquiring the subject properties. Many people have expressed interest in helping with some community funding, including Nanaimo and Area Land Trust. They have also written a letter to you expressing their support for acquiring this land. A land swap. Could there be a land swap with the developer for a more development-friendly piece of land? It has been done in the past. We believe that the best outcome would be for the city to acquire all or most of this land and add it to the protected parkland in Lindley Valley. In addition, protecting the remaining land in the urban reserve in Lindley Valley would satisfy many of the OCP goals and policies. We strongly support and encourage you to designate what's left of Lindley Valley not as neighborhood, but rather as either resource protection or parks and open space, and as an environmentally sensitive area. An intact Lindley Valley is a living utility, providing valuable direct and indirect economic and public health benefits. we would like to congratulate Council for having the foresight and courage to purchase land in the past to create Lindley Valley Caudle Lake Park. As Nanaimo's population grows and density increases, Lindley Valley will be a beautiful natural oasis within our busy urban community. You, our City Council, have an opportunity here to add a stunning piece of land to the existing legacy for residents and visitors to enjoy for generations to come. And going forward, we all have the opportunity to develop a comprehensive plan for the whole Lindley Valley area with the integrity of the natural forested areas as high priority. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the delegation? Thank you, Ms. Addison. No questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next delegation is Ms. Roberta Manzini.
Your
Thank you.
Worship, Council. It's interesting that I should be last when my husband and I were one of the first 5 residents of Lost Lake Road.
Okay, I need your address, ma'am.
Pardon me?
I need your address, please.
5376 Lost Lake Road.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And Joe and I moved to Lost Lake Road in 1965 on December 16th after watching sunsets for many years in that area. There were only 5 houses, and it was originally called Ocean Village by Frank Ney. In our 52 years there, we have watched our children's play forest get replaced by houses. Until recently, the area developed slowly, and Lost Lake Road could handle the increased traffic. There have actually been 3 constants in my life. One has been our address, one has been the sunsets, and the other is the road. I don't know whether you realize that it is the same road that was built in 1961 when the first house was built. We've actually, as Lost Lake Area Residents Association, spoken against a tea house that was proposed at the corner of Lost Lake and Tanya several years ago, and it was never passed because of the problems with the traffic. Lost Lake Road and Dewar Road to Tanya Road and east has never been widened or has had sidewalks, but it has been paved twice. It is 2 lanes with no parking on our side of the road, the lower side. This road is unsafe. A new large yellow sign that you saw projected tonight went up this summer, I guess it was by the city, across from our next door neighbors to warn people about this dangerous 1.7 kilometer stretch of road. In addition to the dangers on the road, a deer sign is posted directly across from our driveway as a path through the yard is their historic crossing. We have had 2 cars land in our yard. Very scary. The last one took out all our power and the connections to our house. And if we hadn't been home, we would have had some serious issues. We do not risk walking on Lost Lake or Tanya anymore. It is not safe for us. And we have been walking on the roads and in the yard and in the parks for over 50 years. Summer is dangerous, but winter is a nightmare. Because we are so high, you saw pictures of the snow that we get, and people park on the road, often creating only 1 lane to drive on and a nightmare for the poor snowplow drivers. In fact, when we first moved to Lost Lake Road, there was limited garbage collection, there was no snow removal system, there was no mail service. We were not part of the city. We were very rural. So things have come a long way. But Lost Lake Road cannot handle more traffic, and the proposed development could increase the traffic load by what I thought was 200 cars, but apparently 800 or more if the full development went through. Please consider this proposal very carefully, realizing that once this unique parcel is gone, it is gone forever to your generation and my generations in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't see any questions for you, ma'am. The next speaker is Mr. David Steingard.
My name is David Steingard, 2187 Spirit Ridge Drive, Victoria. Your Worship and Nanaimo councillors, it's a pleasure to speak to you on behalf of Broadview Developments. I first want to clarify two items from the November 29th meeting. Diane Brennan chaired that meeting and said we had a chance to rebuttal, but in fact that didn't happen. So I just want to clarify a couple of things. One, it was stated that only 3 people had received our notice. Canada Post delivered over 2,000 to the 3 postal codes in the area. Secondly, our biologist was aggressively criticized by Brent Hargraves. Here is what our biologist had to say today in an email. Brent is not a registered professional biologist. As such, he is not part of the College of Applied Biology. He has no background in developing plans and corridors, as we do have. As far as we can tell, Brent is a retired DFO scientist who specialized in the study of sea lice in salmon. With no background in applied biology, he is not qualified to comment on our biologist's report. If Brent was part of the College of Applied Biologists, he would know that it is not acceptable to criticize the work of a peer in public, and doing so would result in disciplinary action. Our biologist, Thomas Roy, coincidentally was hired by your development or your bylaw enforcement officer, Mr. Bridges. He hired this fellow 25 years ago when he came to the island. Our biologist, Thomas Roy, has been creating wildlife corridors and evaluating environmental constraints for development sites for over 25 years. Thomas specializes in the environments found on Vancouver Island. Thomas is qualified to consult on our project. Almost 5 years ago, I met with Bruce Anderson, City of Nanaimo staff planner. My request was to rezone 5260 Tanya. He welcomed my interest in developing this property, and our intention has always been to prepare a comprehensive plan. He mentioned that his regular public inquiries to this unique urban future reserve with over 30 owners and over 400 acres in the middle of North Nanaimo. His enthusiasm then has encouraged us to survey the trails, engage an environmental biologist to identify sensitive areas, and to provide development areas that are defined by your development bylaws. Our efforts have resulted in 2 presentations to you as Mayor and Council. On both occasions, you referred us back to staff for more information. First, Bill Bestwick, then Ian Thorpe said, get us more information. Staff suggested that we apply for OCP amendment and rezoning on November 1st, 2016. We did that. We met the public June 29th, 2017 to present a concept. That's all we wanted to present, with less than 1/2 of the density of neighboring zone property. The citizens of Nanaimo have seen the previous council purchase parkland for $5.6 million. It would be appreciated by our group, mostly local investors and consultants, that you face the simple facts and act accordingly. Your choices are: deny our application and force us to proceed with creating 5-acre lots, buy the 50-acre site at 5260 Tanya, and amend the OCP and rezone the other 2 properties that have never been mentioned, 5280 and 53 Tanya. I like win-win. I don't like lose-win. And so I want you to consider 2 things. Is our land for sale? Yes, it is. Okay?
Sir, you need to address us.
Okay. I just wanted these people to know that our land is for sale. The word swap was mentioned. 3 months ago, we wrote a letter to Bill, or we called Bill Corson and said, we'd like to see what you've got that you'd like to swap. We haven't heard from him. The third is, which was recommended to me by a councillor, create a modest density subdivision with emphasis on protecting the environment. We've done that. As Cheryl Armstrong stated in her pre-election speech, she treats everything like a crime. She gathers all the facts before making a decision. You have an opportunity to unanimously...
Sir, your time's up. You need to wrap.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So in answering questions from council, I need to remind you to refer to council as councillors as opposed to their first and last names.
Okay.
If you please. Councillor Armstrong?
Yeah,
questions?
a couple questions that we heard a lot from the previous speakers. There is an issue with traffic. What would your plan be for that? Because again, and again, from my personal observations and living here different times, there's an awful lot of traffic there, and I don't know if that road could sustain the additional amount of vehicles that would be there on Lost Lake Road.
We've engaged a traffic study company that's done traffic studies on adjacent properties, and staff, as far as roads, I think we're putting in sidewalks. There's calming things. Whatever staff have asked for, we've said that can be accommodated.
And second follow-up, please. Again, I refer to the Migratory Birds Convention Act because that's something dear to my heart. Have you done studies in that area? And because, you know, the blue heron actually falls under that. So what is the proposal to work around the area where that blue heron is nesting or stays?
And that's a good question. I don't have an answer for that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't see any other questions. Thank you very much, sir. Just a note with respect to Councillor Armstrong and her statements during her campaign. She's half the time refers to us as constable and sergeant and so on and so forth. So sometimes we've got to pry that life out of her. She's not doing it any longer. Thank you, sir. Next speaker is Ms. Sherry Moreau. Thank you very much, ma'am. So there is a recommendation. Is someone prepared to move the recommendation? Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you. I'd so move that council deny the official community plan amendment bylaw 2017-6500.033 to redesignate 5260, 5280, and 5300 Tanya Drive on the future land use plan map 1 from urban reserve to neighborhood at first reading.
It's moved by Councillor Bestwick and seconded by Councillor Kipp. Discussion. Councillor Bestwick, do you wish to speak to it?
Sorry.
No?
Well, yes, please. And I'll try to be brief because there's nothing that can replicate what the previous speakers have stated in their defense of this motion, and there's nothing that can replicate the decision that this previous council made in 2013, and we came up 50 acres short, in my opinion, unfortunately and regrettably, to protect and preserve this property known as the Tanya property in my mind. This really is not about, this is another outdoor amphitheater. This is another outdoor passive recreation learning center of health and wellness that can never, ever be duplicated by Butterfly World, by some zoo somewhere, or to show people within an urban environment what a tree is. And it is so important for my kids, grandkids, and everybody else that has grandkids or kids that aren't born yet, to protect and preserve the things that are so precious on Vancouver Island, in the heart of Nanaimo, that once gone will never return. And I don't need to be a biologist, and so I can criticize pretty much anybody that I want because I'm just a lay politician. And the best thing among the many things that we haven't done very well is protecting our future's lands and environment for all children and their grandparents to enjoy for a long time. So I will be supporting this motion with all my heart. Thank you.
Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you, Chair. I will be supporting the staff recommendation as well. I do need to say off the top that I have respect for Mr. Steingard, and I've heard his proposal, and I think he has tried to do the best he can with that piece of property in terms of developing. But that said, there is, for me, an important point is that there is no crucial need at this point to remove that land from the urban reserve. It's only meant to be removed if there is a housing demand, and we have other lands that can accommodate our housing needs at this time. There is no area plan in place, which should be in place. There's certainly traffic considerations and environmental concerns that I think are also very important. Reference has been made to the fact that the city did try to obtain the land in 2013 or 14. I think at that time council recognized its value and wished to try and preserve it. And for me, I think this is property that does definitely need to be protected and preserved. I am hopeful, as Mr. Steingard suggested, that possibly there is an opportunity for a win-win in some way, and I would like to investigate those possibilities. But I will definitely be supporting the staff recommendation to preserve this property as is for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fuller.
I, too, am going to support staff's recommendation. Back in 2006 through to 2008, I believe, they reviewed the official community plan. And prior to the results of the review, the areas in question and the vast majority of Lindley Valley were outside of the urban containment boundary. They were within the city, but outside of the urban containment boundary. And I remember speaking against the changes that would bring these into urban reserve, which urban reserve is a designation that identifies areas within the city for future urban development. So they did this, but there was also brought forward the potential for 50,000 residences in Nanaimo without bringing these areas into the urban containment boundary. So we created the urban reserve and a couple other designations therein into the new official community plan. I believe prior to the revision, these lands were allowed 5-acre lots. That's what could be developed within them, and that was all that could be developed within them. So it would be within the proponent's rights to do that, and that's something he could do. He could carve that into 5-acre lots tomorrow and sell them off if people wanted to buy them. That's his right to do so. I think there is a potential here to purchase that property, but I wouldn't look at just that property. I also look at some of the other green areas, 5311 or 50. Yeah, it looks like 5311, 5291, which are on the other side of Tanya Drive from 5300 and 5280. And then there's more areas around Cotta Lake Park. It would be fantastic to see all of that green space included into Lindley Valley and make it a feature park in Nanaimo. One in the north end, one in the south end. Colliery Dam's huge, phenomenal park, and with the potential to grow even further. So I won't be supporting it, but people need to realize it is within the developer's right to carve that into 5-acre lots and sell them off. I mean, quite frankly, you know, if I could afford a 5-acre lot in the middle of the city with a lot of green space around me, I'd snap it up in a heartbeat. Because that would meet my needs of having green space around me and not seeing people a lot, but being able to go in and do my thing and see people a lot. So I could get away from it within the city. Anyway, I'm not going to support the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Kipp.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the work that Mr. Steingard and them have tried to do on the property. but from my perspective, it's too precious a piece of property for development. As far back as 1996, I fought for the protection of Lindley Valley. It's nice to be right back to kind of where we are right now, where we're trying to protect it. Because of the regional growth strategy at the regional district in 2008, the Corporate Council at that time changed this because we want to protect the regional growth areas, forestry land, and protect that, and put all of our growth inside the city borders, which is just a tax grab and a chase for money, in my view. So from my perspective, it's nice to see this property to be protected. I think it was a bad move to open it up to resource in 2008. It went against everything we fought for. One of the first speakers tonight said something that I said back in 1996 in the OCP then, our future Stanley Park. That's what this is. 100 years from now, people will look back and look at the foresight this and previous councils have had, not only this Lindley Valley, but some of the areas around it, and I think it's important. I appreciate the work that people have done to try and protect it. It's been phenomenal. Your efforts have been phenomenal, and I know I will reward them by denying the official community plan change at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Yoakum.
I'll try to be brief here. It's getting late. I just want to state I will be supporting the denial of the. I'll be supporting the motion on the table, but also at the same time must say I have utmost respect for Mr. Steingard. Therefore, I hope if the motion goes forward as is, that staff and Mr. Steingard will have a conversation regarding to some of the options. But also, I want to just quickly in closing state to when one of the speakers, Mrs. Manzini, was speaking. I remember back in the day in high school when her son would have a few people over, like 100, when you guys are out of town. I really thought I was in the boonies because I'm a Harewood boy, so when I went out to Lost Lake Road, where am I? But I remember those days when we'd have those late nights at your house. Thank you. So, and your son had good parties.
Oh, my gosh.
And she was a good teacher.
Yeah.
Well, living in the center part of town, our next door neighbors who left us went to Cinnabar. And we kid them about how we have to drive halfway to Victoria to come see them now. So I know what that feels like. Thank you. Councillor Brennan.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that I'm making this unanimous. I think we've all spoken. I really appreciate the work that Mr. Steingard has done. I appreciate that he kept councillors informed of the plans that he was working on behalf of Broadview Developments. The problem is that it is true that we have 1,200 acres still waiting for development, and this was denied by the last council, I think, on those very grounds. I'm going to have to vote to deny it too. That piece of property is too valuable, I think, to be lost to housing. I would like not to lose it at all. I'd like to have have our staff begin conversations with the owners to see what kinds of agreements that we might be able to make regarding that beautiful piece of property. I did the walk with the Save Lindley Valley folk, and it was pretty clear that I wasn't going to be able to support it and attempt to develop it with housing. I'm not convinced at all that 5-acre lots are that much different in terms of what would have to be carved out there. So I won't support this, and I would look forward to further discussions about that property.
Thank you very much. So I have some questions for staff, if I could, please. I watched with great interest a real good meeting in 2008 when our then city manager was proposing that we expand the urban containment boundary out to the boundaries of the city. And a lot of what he said made so much sense, particularly in light of the fact that 5-acre lots were being done all over the community, particularly around the perimeters, and how expensive they are to maintain. When this was last in front of us, which I believe was 2013, I thought for sure, my recollection was that this particular property here was slated to come in front of us, at least in staff's view, around 2021, 2022. Am I right or am I wrong? Even though this was intended to be the urban reserve was intended to be a development tool to control development to 2031.
Your Worship, if I understand your question, that the properties are designated urban reserve, and it was contemplated that in order for them to be removed from the reserve and brought into development, that there be an area plan, a comprehensive plan completed. The OCP has in it a number of implementation schedules. One of those is the idea of a Lindley Valley area plan, and it talked about that being in the medium term, which was at that time in 2008 identified it being between 10 and 20 years, I believe, is the policy in the plan. So it was somewhere between now, 2018, and 2028.
Okay, thank you very much. So just out of curiosity, I thought the principle behind the further prevention of urban sprawl in Nanaimo was intended to do development from the heart out, from the center out, particularly on infill projects. One of the reasons we find ourselves in the situation we're in today is because of the urban sprawl that happened during the 70s. We've got unbelievably low density in Nanaimo. So, question, if a development permit were to come forward for Ocean View and Sandstone tomorrow, providing they've got their access issues dealt with, would we approve it? Even though they're at the outer boundaries of our community.
Your Worship, I would fall back to your official community plan policy, which at present, unlike these properties, actually designates those lands as being development. There's certainly issues with the servicing of some of those properties and servicing extension, there's no question, but they are, at this point, the OCP identifies them for development. So I don't think the question would be if a development permit came forward, the next step would be rezoning application. So yes, if a rezoning application came forward, it would, in theory, be consistent with your existing OCP policy.
Okay. I just find that very odd that something out at the other extremities would be part of part of active development or could be actively developed, and yet something closer to the center can't be. Having said that, I would never support 5-acre lots. I guess in the future we need to realize as a city that one of the challenges we've got is with urban sprawl. And one of the reasons why people complain about our taxes being as high as they are in Nanaimo is because of the cost of servicing a long linear city. Notwithstanding the fact that Ocean View has been called by staff to be an infrastructure sinkhole, it could be developed. Same thing with Sandstone and our 100-acre woods that the city of Nanaimo owns. I would love nothing more than to get that developed out. But it's at the outer extremities of the city. This just all seems very odd to me. In any case, Councillor Kipp.
Thank you very much. From my point of view, the sprawl issue, when I look at Vancouver now, and they've tried to condense everything and go high, I can't sell my beautiful house here in sprawled Nanaimo and even get a pigeonhole over there. So yeah, it's expensive. We put pipes in the ground with Marinade in those days when we got 50-cent dollars for water and sewer, but we forgot everything else that went along with it: schools, parks, roadways, drainage, all the other things that we now charge development cost charges for. When I look at Nanaimo and its sprawl, it's one of the best communities in the world to live in. People have little pieces of land. People get different choices of house styles. When I talk about this piece of property, it goes to the financial, it goes to the environmental, both human and natural, and it goes to that social equity. You couldn't develop 5-acre chunks in there. It's too expensive to run the pipes through there for a 5-acre chunk. You're going to reduce the amount of people paying for the development. So 5 acres is unrealistic. 5 acres used to be nice at the edge of the community because then people could buy those and in the future develop them for their family and split those pieces of lots up and divide it out. I think that is one of our lifestyle things that we've kind of lost when we've gone to kind of condominium living or pigeonhole living. So for me, the protection of that specific property is more important than, say, the Sandstone property or the Ocean View property. And neither of those would I like them just to be subdivisions without services. I think Ocean View is just a subdivision with very limited services. Sandstone is an actually community plan. So now that you've brought those into it, so the sprawl that I see out in that area, the people living in that area and protecting it were part of the sprawl when I was a kid growing up. Mr. Manzini and them moved out of town. They were way out of town then. But the town has grown. What we have to look at now is what do we want for our future of Nanaimo? What do we want it to look like? Do we want it to look like Vancouver? Do we want it to look like Calgary? Do we want it to look like a little German village? Do we want it to look like something from Mexico? But I think we want it to look like Nanaimo, and that's a little bit of sprawl, some land to grow some things, and protecting our water courses, protecting our clean air and those type of things. And so if we have to pay for a bit of sprawl, that means we can reduce some other things. But like I say, it's the area itself for me that has such environmental sensitivity. That's one of the reasons I made this decision. Thank you.
Okay. So there's a motion on the floor. It's been moved and seconded. Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Next item, sewer regulation. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. We need business to carry on here. Thank you. If you are leaving, please, ladies and gentlemen, please allow us to continue with our meeting, if you would, please. Sewer regulation and change amendment bylaw, 2017-2946.30. Councillor Brennan.
Okay, just, thanks. Okay. I move that sewer regulation and charge amendment bylaw 2017 number 2496.30 to set 2018 rates for sanitary sewer be adopted.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor?
Oh.
Opposed? Show Councillor Kipp opposed. Motion passes. Next one.
I move that zoning amendment bylaw 2017 number 4500.112 RA 380 to rezone 615 and 699 Harewood Road from single dwelling residential R1 to 3 and 4 unit residential R5 be adopted.
Thank you. Seconder? Seconded by Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
I move that Waterworks rate and regulation amendment bylaw 2017 number 7004.13 to set 2018 water rates be adopted.
And a seconder. Councillor Thorpe, thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Show Councillor Kipp opposed. Motion carries.
I move that Southwest bulk water rate amendment bylaw 2017 number 7099.06 to set the 2018 bulk water rates for Southwest Extension be adopted.
Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Opposed? Show Councillor Yoakum and Councillor Kipp opposed. Motion carries.
I move that Municipal Solid Waste Collection Amendment Bylaw 2017 number 7128.09 to update the bylaw for the implementation of automated garbage collection and set the rates for 2018 be adopted.
Seconded by Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Opposed? Show Councillors Fuller and Kipp opposed. Motion carries.
I move that zoning amendment bylaw 2017 number 4500.115 RA 382 to rezone a portion of 480 10th Street from single dwelling residential R1 to duplex residential R4 be adopted.
Is there a second? Councillor Thorpe, thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. No correspondence. Other business. Councillor Yocum, with respect to motion for marijuana storefronts.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to put forward a motion, and I'll read it really slow. 1, that council prohibit any cannabis dispensary from operating within 150 meters from any school, daycare, youth community center, or playground. 2, that council establish a cannabis task force on cannabis legalization and regulation. That's it.
Thank you. So it's been moved by Councillor Yocum, seconded by Councillor Brennan. So we'll consider that to be both the introduction to the item and it's on the floor now. We do have a delegation, Ms. Amanda Oram, pardon me.
Hello, Mayor and Council, staff.
We need your...
My name is Amanda. I reside in Nanaimo, Amanda Oram.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just have two things I would like to really quickly discuss. Since we approached council the past few times, there's been a lot of questions about uncertainty about what the municipalities can do in the times of ending prohibition and taking the next step forward. Right now, I'm probably the only one in Nanaimo that actually watches all the roundtable discussions and the committee hearing meetings and openly discusses it in working groups with advocates across Canada. What we do know, feds are allowing provinces to deal with the wholesale distribution and retail regulations on cannabis-related businesses. All flower products in BC will be through a wholesale distribution model governed through the LDB, Liquor Distribution Branch, and they'll be sourcing their products from one of the now 80 licensed producers through Health Canada. Recently, Health Canada announced that they will allow micro-cultivators and processors to apply for licenses to grow, and that's a huge win for BC craft growers. We know that the retail tax structure will look like it'll have normal GST, PST, and an additional tax. It'll be 10% of the sale or $1 per gram, whichever is higher. So just a couple of weeks ago, all the finance ministers, provincial finance ministers, met with the federal finance ministers and the CRA, and they discussed the tax scheme and how they're going to break it up, and they agreed that 75% of the tax revenue will be going to the provinces, and then the feds will keep 25%. And then the extra will be able to go to First Nations reserves and municipalities. We know that, so this bill only includes dried flower. It doesn't include extracts, shatters, oils, salves, or cancer-fighting RSO oil. But they will start looking at regulations of these extra products 1 year after Bill C-45 has passed. And I just wanted to quickly say that this bill does not advocate for abstinence. We realize that people are using this. We have a cannabinoid system. We use it as a medicine. And so we're removing the criminal approach, and we're going to use this approach this as a social approach. And as for such, we would ask Nanaimo to offer places for people to consume this product freely without punishment. Within reason, of course. And it's been said over and over again, to eliminate or shrink the black market, rules and regulations need to include those already successful in the cannabis industry. I would like to go to this letter. I emailed this to you guys about 5:30 this evening when I got it. There's a new advocacy independent cannabis association, and they wrote you a letter. I'm just going to paraphrase it. I know it's been a long night. They basically want to ask you to strongly recommend that the city take into account the expertise that exists in the current operational cannabis market, include current dispensaries and producers in the bylaw development process. We advise creating definitions and categories for the following business classes: storefront retail, small-scale micro-producers, large-scale producers, small-scale micro-processors, and large-scale processors and consumption spaces. They will be having a panel and would like to invite all of staff and council to attend. It will be at the Camosun College in Victoria on January 17th at 7 p.m. It would be a great first step forward so that you can get more information about what we have to offer on our side and our advice.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any questions, Council? I do have a question for you. You said that the federal government has now come out and suggested that they will accept applications for craft growers.
Yes, so micro cultivators and micro processors. So there will be small-scale growers that are not necessarily multi-million-dollar facilities that are like Tilray and Broken Coast and Wildflower. So they can be small-scale farms that have outdoor grow.
Okay, so thank you for that. My question is, subsequent to that, is what rules will they operate under? Has there been a number of rules that have been provided, or are they under the current MMPR rules?
So this is it's been added to the Health Canada recommendations through the ACMPR program. There's a lot of mix-up about what we're going to do with the medical program, because the retail market is going to be piggybacking off of these licensed producers, right? So these are some of the questions. So the Health Canada has allowed a consultation process, and I can give you a link. I can email you the link with more information.
Thank you. So at this particular point, if the federal government is saying that they'll accept applications from micro growers, and don't get me wrong, as you know, that was one of the things that, like a craft brewery that I talked about, that I could see that happening. But have they come up with rules for the micro or for the craft growers?
So they would go through still the licensed producers rules, right?
Okay.
So they'll still have the
great.
safety regiment and security processes.
Thank you. You talked about revenue and how the federal government said that they would get 75% of the taxation revenue, and the provinces would get 25%.
No, the other way around. So the feds will get 25%, provinces will get 75%, and then the provinces will be responsible for the distribution to the First Nations reserves and municipalities.
Okay, we'll see if that happens. Thank you. Councillor Kipp.
Question. Currently, the per gram cost for marijuana in a lot of the stores and that is well below what the government is talking about.
Yeah, exactly. And when we look at a price per pound, when you look at it at like a storefront retail, you're going to buy a pound of flowers. That's $454 on just excess tax, just on that alone, right? So right now we're seeing it with some of the more corporate dispensaries. They're selling $18 grams right now because that's just the way it's going to work.
But that's not going to slow down. I think now with the price the federal government set, the black market just upped its price.
I think the black market, personally myself, will stay where it's at. The black market currently supplies the dispensaries, right? And so the dispensaries then sell it at a profit to pay their bills and cover expenses and whatnot, right? But the black market is providing it at a very compassionate price right now, because in the dark ages of Prohibition, it was at $2,500, $2,800 a pound, where now it's more compassionate, mid-thousands.
That's good then, because it's trying to get it out of the black market is the key, I guess.
Yeah. We've got to try to keep it as cheap as possible, but we also have to try to allow the black market and the gray market to come into the light. Right? If we keep shutting the doors on them, they're just going to get more organized.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Armstrong.
Not for delegation, but just I will be supporting.
Okay, so you no questions for the delegation?
No, that's why my question.
Any questions for the delegation? No, seeing none. Thank you very much, ma'am. Go ahead, Councillor.
In the past, I've been against this, but I'm not now, because I think we now know what the provincial government's going to do, so I'll be voting in favor of this. I think it's a good thing, and the task force, I think, would be interested to see how we get it. No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're not on the agenda, sir.
You're not on the agenda.
You're not on the agenda.
So, yes, Mr. O'Donnell was a delegation. The item was removed, and Ms. Oram was added late.
That's right, yeah.
Mr. O'Donnell hasn't
That
been
makes
added
sense.
Thanks for telling me.
Makes sense.
My apologies, sir. You have just a moment. Time?
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. My name is Matthew O'Donnell. I'm from Nanaimo, British Columbia. I'm here to speak in support of establishing a cannabis task force looking into the regulation and licensing of cannabis dispensaries in Nanaimo, also known as retail cannabis storefronts. It's important to note, just based off my last delegation here to council, that this is not a question about whether or not cannabis use is morally acceptable or not. Across Canada, governments on the federal, provincial, and municipal levels are working tirelessly to prepare for July 1st, when cannabis will be legalized fully in Canada. Now that the provincial government has rolled out their cannabis strategy to include private cannabis retail stores, aka dispensaries, and considering the fact that the City of Nanaimo currently has over 20 stores operating within their city limits, employing over 200 citizens here in Nanaimo, it is, in my opinion, well past time for the city to begin the planning process of how these storefronts will be able to integrate into the community as a legal, licensed, and contributing member of the business community and the community at large as well. As Amanda stated earlier, there are two major responsibilities of a municipal government when it comes to this cannabis process, and that will be through land use amendments and zoning bylaws. This is not something, as I'm sure you're all well aware, that can happen overnight. This is going to take months and months of planning. I know for the last, as of this month, 2 years now, myself and Amanda and others have approached this podium countless times and have spent hours and hours and hours trying our best to educate the city and council as best as we can. And now here we are about a half a year before legalization, and you know, now's the time. It was the time yesterday or maybe even a year ago, but now we really do need to do something. I feel that Councillor Yoakum's motion for establishing a task force is a very positive step in the right direction. We need to start having conversations with the RCMP, with VHOP, with city staff, with UN Council, with other levels of government, and most importantly, with the community at large. At this time, none of this has happened. We are now in December 2017. The federal government has given a deadline for July 1st, 2018 for cannabis legalization to come. I know I'm rambling here, but I cannot stress this enough. Once again, you have 200 citizens of Nanaimo who are currently employed by over 20 businesses operating without business licenses within your city limits. It's not even a matter of being proactive now, it's time to just act. So thank you. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions as usual, and also as usual, I'm available to any of you at any time.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong?
Oh, sorry, no.
No. I see no questions, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, there is a motion on the floor. It's been moved and seconded. I would ask if the mover and the seconder have any issues with taking it seriatim. Oh, Mr. Lindsay.
Thank you, Worship. Maybe I could just, maybe one question and one comment. The first would just be clarification on the motion so that staff understand it. And if the motion I'm referring to is that council prohibits any dispensary from operating within 150 meters, and it lists a number of uses, including daycares, playgrounds. So to be clear, at this point, all operating storefronts are illegal. So all of them today are prohibited. We have not elected at this point to take enforcement action on them, but nor have we licensed those storefronts. So my first question to council would be, if this motion was adopted, is the intention of the motion to direct staff to now enforce on all existing storefronts within 150 meters? Because I will tell council there are a number of existing storefronts that under this criteria would be within 150 meters of a number of these uses? Or is it that moving forward, council's intention is not to consider the legalization of those storefronts? It's just a point of clarification on that first point. On the second, on the task force, and as the speakers have mentioned this evening, we're starting to learn more. I mean, the federal government's come out with what they're going to do federally. Some provinces have announced what they're going to do in entirety. BC has given us a little bit of a hint of where we're heading, and included in that some statements hinting that we could be looking at storefronts that are a mixture of public and private stores. Details to come out more in the first quarter of 2018. But what we sounds like right now is very similar to the way liquor stores are run. We have a mixture of public and private liquor stores. The province licensed them. The province limits the number there are in a community. All of those things still remain unknown. We'd very much like to know the answers to those, but they're unknown. And you've heard in the community or on news, you've heard lobbying from liquor stores and liquor store operators that they should be the ones that actually sell cannabis. I'm not advocating for that. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but I'm saying that those are the questions that are still out there that are yet to be resolved. We do have criteria in place from when you went through the liquor stores and the private liquor store review that on the surface would seem to apply very closely to criteria that we would use for rezoning on cannabis storefronts when we know the amounts and number that are being permitted in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Hence why I wanted them done seriatim. Councillor Armstrong.
Would it be simple to say that if we added to the motion that once legalization comes into effect, was it July 1st, 2018, that this bylaw would go into effect? So that would cover off if it does go to storefronts, or if it does just stay with liquor stores, it would still be covered off. Would that make sense? Like, it'd be proactive. I think what Councillor Yoakum's trying to do is ensure if we do get the ability to have storefronts, that they're not in the same locations. We'd adopt, I think, the same process as we did for the liquor stores. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay, sorry.
Councillor Yoakum.
Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Lindsay, good points. And what I'm just trying to do here tonight is, I heard numerous speakers in this council, numerous members of this council. We've tried to have this conversation in the past, and what I was just hoping to do is it's not a simple subject by no means, but make a simple motion to get the ball rolling. So I'm more comfortable of removing number 1 and going with the council established a cannabis task force on cannabis legalization and regulation to have these conversations, how we're going to decide amongst whether it's 100 meters, 150, how they're going to do the business license, etc. Let the task force come up with the conversation on this. And the reason I wanted us to do it is because I believe we have the withal. I know the government's always going to dictate it somewhat, but I'd like to be ahead of the curve, and we can take a lead on this in our own city. So I'm comfortable removing 1 and just make it to number 2 a part of the motion. And then because we got to take a lead on this and get control of the Green Mile per se, what's happening up there in that neck of the woods. Thanks.
Thank you very much. So you're going to withdraw that one. So best suggestion here would be to go to the seconder. Okay. Concur? Okay.
Yeah.
So the mover and the seconder are withdrawing number 1. Councillor Fuller.
I was actually...
Okay. Thank you very much. So it's been moved and seconded. Any further debate? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Councillor Brennan.
Thank you. I'm just wondering if staff has any ideas about time frame when we might be able to expect a report back.
Your Worship, prior to this evening's motion, our intent was to get the details coming out of the province early in the new year, and then at that point come back to you with a report about proceeding forward with what we think would be potentially site-specific criteria for rezoning. Given Council's motion here, our next report coming back to you would actually then be a report regarding the initiation of this task force, terms of reference and composition. But I will say we would have to move quickly on that in order to get the task force up and running, get it reviewed, and get that report back to Council. So I would say early in the new year.
Just one follow-up on that. So the staffing is in place for us to accommodate that?
Your Worship, we certainly have staff that could work on such a project, but we will have to reprioritize projects that have been previously requested by Council for sure.
Thank you. So next one up, Councillor Brennan on your motion.
This is a request. I put it on the agenda, but I know that Councillor Thorpe would like to attend as well. We believe that the LGLA that their conferences are not necessarily included in our travel and education budget. So I'm asking for council's approval for us to attend the Local Government Leadership Academy Conference, a leadership forum, which is titled Leading to the Finish, Reflections on a Term in Office. And that would be for anyone who wanted to attend, just seeking approval for that expenditure. So I move that we be permitted to, that any council member be permitted to attend.
Thank you. Is there someone prepared to second that motion? Councillor Thorpe, thank you. Discussion. Councillor Beswick.
Thank you. That's curious about what the expense is. Do we know? Do we know what? Is it a 3-dayer? Is it in Vancouver? Is it in Bellingham? Where is it?
Not generally in Bellingham, I think, because we want to keep our taxpayers' money
For
here
sure.
being spent here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I just thought it was kind of a joke. I thought you had joked, and so I smiled back. But I'm not sure. Cheryl may know the cost.
325 plus 135 a night.
There you are. $350 plus
135
GST.
a night?
135 a night.
Wow.
At the Radisson.
Good deal.
Okay, so your question is answered?
So then my question is, will council approve us taking courses for our education?
Great, thank you. So I have a question for Mr. Mema. There's a very prescriptive protocol with respect to council spending and amenities. By approving this motion, will that mean that there is a new line item that would be created, or that would increase the amount, or does the councillor have to manage their own account and perhaps forego something else to attend this conference? Mr. Mema.
So I think the most prudent way is for councillors to start by managing their own accounts first, and then if at that point they decide that they need additional help, they can't forego anything, then that becomes an additional approval for that course. The question we would have as staff is this a one-time arrangement, or this becomes part of the pre-approval every year? So we'll need that clarification. If the option is that there is no way to forego some other course, at this point we would probably reallocate out of council's contingency for those who may want to attend. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Brennan.
Your Worship, we did, Councillor Thorpe and I do a little bit of exploring on this, and we kind of came away with the understanding that the UBCM, the FCM, the local organization, the AVICC, those were pre-approved. But beyond that, we had to have specific approval. Because this is in January. I mean, if we're looking at just a kind of individual global budget for the year, we probably don't have to ask for approval. But we were not clear on that. But if I have a fixed amount for 12 months, and I choose in January to go somewhere, then I may have to decide in October that I'm not going to something else, but we're just not clear on how this is being administered.
Through the chair, it is as clear as mud by design. So you have the pre-approved courses. If nothing stops you to say, I'm not going to go to UBCM, I'm going to use my UBCM amount to go to this other course. The policy was not written to prohibit that. So the prohibition comes on the budget side of things. So if you're going to exceed,
Okay.
then you need this body to approve that part.
So because it's January, I probably don't need approval at this point, but if I got carried away and wanted to do other things.
You may have to come back at
yes,
that
I may
point.
have to come back. Okay, thank you very much.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, the motion you've got on the floor right now is outside of the current budget, the expense and amenities budget, council's expense and amenities budget, that you would like, you're asking for anyone from council who wishes to attend LGLA be permitted to do so. Am I getting that?
That sounds like there's a fixed limit. Is there?
I think she's here now.
Here now, I'm asking you a question. Is there a fixed amount for the 12 months that we're going into?
So you have indirectly fixed the amounts by saying these are the courses that we are pre-approving and saying we're going to go.
Okay.
If you decided to say, out of these pre-approved courses, I'm not going to go to this one, I'm going to go to this other one, the policy as it stands doesn't prohibit you from a financial perspective. But you are constrained by the allocation that says, oh, by the way, you can't go to all of these pre-approved ones and then add this other one.
Okay, in that instance, then my motion still stands because I would like to attend this one in January, and I don't want to have that mean that I can't attend the Union of BC Municipalities or the our local Association of Vancouver Island Coastal Communities or the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. I'd like to add this to the list that is already approved. I would like to go this January to this specific course.
So through the chair, that's within council's, I think, will, if you decide to do that. The question I asked was just a clarification that says that at this point, is that a line item? I think you asked that question that you want to be availed to all of you, or it's left to individual councillors to make that choice. That's I think direction we'll look from you.
Okay,
So what I'd ask you to do is consider this particular request, and then if you want, at some later date when we have more time and it's not the end of the evening, council could consider whether they want to add LGLA courses to the fixed number of courses that we go on, or courses, conventions, conferences.
So, if I may suggest, Your Worship, I think if Councillor Brennan is willing, maybe this could be discussed at a committee level. And if this is in January, you have your first finance and audit, I think, in the first week or first 2 weeks. I'm not too sure what the dates are there. That's January 6, 17. I think you may have to deal with it today then. Thank you. I've answered myself.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bestwick.
Thanks. I was just going to say that this is probably a Finance and Audit Committee meeting, subject matter or topic that we could discuss, but clearly it's not going to meet the test of time to have that discussion before registration for 2018. But I would think that would be a good place to have this conversation. The UBCMs and FCMs and ABICCs are provincial and island designated programs that we've been going to for decades. So does that mean that this one shouldn't be included? No, but maybe there's a place for this conversation to get to a resolution.
So through the chair, I think to make this conversation a little bit more efficient, given the time, I think if you could determine or adjudicate on this request, and then we can have a fulsome discussion about future implications of this at the next finance and audit. I think that would work for you.
Okay, thank you very much. So there's a motion on the floor. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next one, Councillor Fuller, with respect to mobile showers.
I've been looking at the motion and I want to amend it, just to tweak it a little bit, because that was exactly what I had said at the council meeting. I believe that was taken verbatim, but I think it would sound better, and it's up to this way, that council directs staff to look into the cost of a mobile shower and work with community partners towards the potential purchase of one. I want to say we want to purchase one right away, because we may, once we get the information, we may say, wait a minute, the cost is too high or anything like that. So if that's the motion I want to make, and in part, I've been hearing this for a number of years. There's really nowhere people can take showers. They don't like them going up to the aquatic center. They won't allow them into the NPA showers. There's very little out there for people and showers. And if you're homeless and you're trying to find a place to live, it helps if you go there clean and not dirty. If you're homeless and you're looking for part-time work or full-time work or any work whatsoever, even casual through the labor things, being clean is extremely helpful in finding any gainful employment whatsoever. And I've also, actually playing on my phone tonight, I just got a message from Daybreak Rotary that they are still looking for a potential project that they can get involved in, and they had already talked about the idea of a mobile shower. So I think this is a good opportunity. I believe there are other community partners we could look at. And I believe the funding would be available through the Housing Legacy Reserve. It's already there, so it wouldn't increase taxes or anything with regards to that. So that's the motion I would like to make, if there's a seconder.
Okay, it's been moved by Councillor Fuller and seconded by Councillor Armstrong. Okay, Councillor Brennan.
Okay. My only issue with this is that it confines the discussion and the research to a mobile shower. I'm not sure that we've even we haven't done any research on what is the best method, and so I would prefer to have the research into just the wider question of showers, because we may find that mobile shower is not the best method. We don't know that. I mean, we might find that it is, hands down the best thing that we could do, but we don't know that. So I would, if we're going to go down this route, I'd like a broader research than just the cost of a mobile shower.
Thank you. Councillor Kip.
Well, that gets to my point. Caledonia Park has a set of showers we just rebuilt for the football club a couple of years ago. We did work in the riparian area on the opposite side of the parking lot that I'm always worried about. But there's showers sitting there. Field's hardly used Monday through Friday. There's only a few 10 football games a year go there, maybe 20 football games for the school kids. So those showers are available Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning from 10 a.m. or 7 a.m. after they kick them out of the shelter up the street by my house, or they're coming from downtown after 7:10 breakfast. There's a place possibly that we could open up there, and that goes to Councillor Brennan's issue. We got showers sitting around. We got shower buildings. We got showers at Gyro Park. We got showers all over the place with buildings. We got showers right behind the city annex in the old Cornell School gymnasium. So they're there. A portable shower unit. When you say portable, typically a shower building on a job site is brought in, set up, and made to stay there for a while. And of course your heat systems and that are, you have to have a water supply or tank water supply, you have to have drainage and all of that. And they're usually typically only a 4-booth or 6-booth thing, and they're not separated. The shower buildings we have at Caledonia are separated. They're huge for football players. And it would only take some volunteers and some cleanup to have a place like that ready in next Monday. Well, we started the injection site on a boxing day. I'm not going to do that again this year. So we did that last year. It still isn't solved. So for me, yeah, we got to expand this. We got keeping them clean. Well, I would make an amendment to include what Councillor Brennan put in, that we look at the ability for showers, portable showers, mobile showers, or existing shower buildings, and the potential to use those.
And leave in the community partners.
And the community partners should be there too. They'd love to sponsor something like that.
And I would support that.
And then we could power wash the building after instead of downtown. Thank you.
I would support that.
Okay, the seconder? Will you support that amendment? Great, thank you. Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you, Chair. I like the intent of the original motion, and I like the amended motion better. I think this needs to be a broader discussion and look at all our options, so I'll certainly support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Beswick.
Thank you. Is this seeking a report back on options throughout the city? Or is this amendment specific to a specific site or location? Because maybe if I could have the amended motion read to me, please.
That council directs staff to look into the purchase of a mobile shower, portable showers, or existing showers and work with community partners towards the potential purchase of one.
So that's talking about portable showers, which I heard just say that, well, if we amend it to be something that we currently have or exist, but we're still on to the original motion of investigating the purchase of a portable shower unit and investigating the possibility of an existing site that has showers available. Is that correct?
That's what I hear.
What's the
Anybody else?
I think the intent of it would be look at all options towards public showers in the community or something like that. I mean, it's more inclusive. It breaks it down when you talk about the portable, existing, et cetera, et cetera. But if we can narrow that down and still encompass the works.
So if I may, just as it references existing facilities, some have been mentioned already, and I'm sure there's others. And if there is a community agency that's interested in supporting somehow, then there is definitely going to be some costs associated to this, and that's fine. But perhaps they'd like to engage in opening up Caledonia Park, and there is security, or there is cleanup, or there's going to be things that are going to be necessary. Hours of operation, who opens the gates, who closes the gates, who opens the doors, who closes the doors, who sanitizes this, who sanitizes that, who whatever. So there is going to be costs associated, so maybe they'd be willing to engage in that, and that could start much quicker than us going to try to find, we're going to try to find showers in a portable fashion somewhere. And where are they going to go, to Councillor Kipp's point? Now what? Where are they going to go? Do we have a truck? Do we hook it up to? Do we have a trailer? Do we have a license? Who gets the license? Et cetera. So to me, this is just like on the fly here. Do we have a business plan? Do we know how much it's going to cost? Who's going to do it? We just talked about, do we have enough staff time to do the cannabis thing? Now, do we have enough staff time then to try to put out a call for a shower? I don't know. But we have showers, and they're all around town. And surely we can come up with something sooner than later. Thank you.
Councillor Brennan.
Thank you. I think that we might be able to solve this issue, the wording issue, by just changing that to work with community partners to make public showers available, and then we're not constrained. And as for a business plan, we don't have a business plan. We've asked our staff to research that for us, and so those things will be next steps, I think.
Thank you. All right, Councillor Fuller. Anything else?
No, that would work.
Okay. No, it sounds like it's there. It's been done by the, correct? Okay. Actually, no, I wouldn't.
Okay.
Stay with the intent.
I would like Ms. Gerard to read it, please. Go ahead.
Okay, so that council directs staff to work with community partners to make public showers available.
Yeah.
That work?
Great.
Okay.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Next, Councillor Kipp on the issue of sidewalks.
Well, rising on a point of privilege, I'd just like to apologize to the public that I offended for saying that I wouldn't worry about the losses from elders. It shouldn't have come across that way. I don't know if the paper got my complete quote that I blamed it on the drivers, but I do apologize for that. What I hope to achieve by what I'm saying tonight is I didn't mean to worry that old elders would be dying as pedestrians. That's just not my point. But adults have a better understanding of the road was my point. They bear some responsibility for that, but kids don't, and that's why I want to protect children. My background in disaster management or whatever, I've seen enough car accidents that I don't want to see anybody else hurt. I've been to enough of them in my life. I guess my frustrating part with the sidewalk issue is Metro Drive and Dumont Road took over 2 years to get a lighting after a lady was killed coming from the Woodgrove Manor. Oliver Woods at Ralston, it took over 2 years to get the sidewalks changed when the public was concerned. Councillor Brennan will know on Terminal Avenue from around up to Comox Road, from Campbell Street, it took us over 2 years to get the sidewalk in there. It was very dangerous. We've asked about Boxwood. We've asked about Dufferin Crescent. And I know Councillor Bestwick recently has asked about 3 or 4 years ago about Dufferin Crescent, and we were saying, oh, it's going to get in the budget, going to get in the budget. So my frustration is when I see areas that this council concerned very serious and the public concerned very serious, that I guess it's hard for our corporation to react fast, and I guess that's my frustration. But I'm sorry if my statement offended people. Not that I haven't offended people before, but I'm apologizing for it. So I just wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kipp. And I wanted to say that, now we've got the initiative on there tonight with respect to $300,000 a year for sidewalks and improvements. One of the things that I notice in the community is that an adult, to your point with respect to adults and kids, when you push the button on an automated crosswalk and the yellow lights start flashing, please don't think that means for the cars to stop, because that's not what it means. It just enhances the crosswalk to make it more visible. So the number of times I watch people almost get killed, they hit that button on the way by and they walk out in the crosswalk. It doesn't mean stop to the traffic. So just bear that in mind, that it's intended to highlight the crosswalk only. Thank you. The next item is under E. Oh, sorry, Councillor Fuller, did you want to?
Well, I would just take that one step further, and this is towards the fact that adults bear more responsibility than kids. It's up to the adults to teach their kids. And not only does it go to crosswalks, but it goes to riding bikes. I was headed home last night, and 3 kids, little kids, riding bikes towards me, and I barely saw them, and they could easily have been hit. So the adults bear a huge amount of responsibility in what we teach our kids.
Thank you. Next item, under other business, Mr. Peter Urquhart, with respect to question period.
No deers getting hit.
Hello, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
Peter Urquhart, Nanaimo. It's so late. I realize that my time would actually be better spent keeping this very short. You guys all received a document from me over the weekend here. I think it was pretty straightforward. I could go through each of the subpoints here on what the problems are. One of the largest problems that are pointed out in the document is this question period is actually preventing people from being able to be part of the dialogue. I recognize that the intent of this motion was, or not the motion, of the question period changes, was to address some of the things where a little too much ongoing dialogue is occurring, that kind of thing. And so good idea in concept, but now in practice, as we've seen since the very beginning of this, it's crashed hard. It's crashed hard right from the very start. And I really believe that to serve the community best, to really address the concerns that everybody has been voicing about question period, and that many on council have been, is that really it has to go back to the drawing board. I would suggest that this needs to come back where you guys can make a motion to bring the question period back to what it was prior to October 16th. In the document that I sent you, I've sent you some suggestions for what those motions might be. The second motion would be in moving forward with actual changes that could go through a proper process first. One way you could do that is go through staff. Another idea that's been mentioned through Gord, or Councillor Fuller, was potentially putting this one through to the Community Engagement Task Force. That's not so important to me, the number 2 part. The most important part to me right now is just getting things back so that it's usable. And then you guys can decide after that where to go next. So I think I'll stop there. I would encourage anything that you guys have to ask of me or that type of thing. I would love to hear what you think. I'm really hoping for some action. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see no questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, we move on to, of all things, question period. I have 2 submitted questions. The first one is from Mr. Ken Ozzy Osborne. Thank you for coming out tonight, sir. Appreciate it. First question is, if I am watching the council meeting at home, how can I get my question or inquiry asked and answered? Well, the answer to that question is we have no mechanism for that, sir. For anybody to get a question answered at home. About 3 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, I was at a conference in Vancouver where they used a process called Pigeonhole. Pigeonhole would allow you to be able to sit at home and use your mobile device or your computer at home and either ask a question or of a meeting that you may be attending that was being live streamed, or vote for a question. So for example, one of the challenges that we've had at this table is trying to get people to come up and actually ask questions. We get a lot of speeches and a lot of scolding, but we don't get a lot of sometimes we don't get questions. So this Pigeonhole program actually allows you to sit at home and to ask the question. So if there's a question up there that you would like to, you say, yeah, I'd really like to have that one asked, or I'd really like to have that one answered, you can also vote for that one. And what you watch is you watch everything being populated to the point where the most important questions go up in the top left-hand corner, and then they're ranked accordingly, so that the most pressing issues are dealt with by the group or the moderators of the conference at that particular time. But that's and it doesn't matter how many times I brought up this idea. Why can't we use Pigeonhole? Why can't we use Pigeonhole? For some reason, we just can't seem to ever use it. I'd love to use it. Try it. But right now, there's no way. There's no way for you to answer questions at all. Councillor Fuller.
I kind of like the idea of Pigeonhole, but we do e-town halls and we answer questions at the e-town halls. So there must be a mechanism that we could do this. And this is one of the reasons I'd like to see this go back to the Community Engagement Task Force. I don't think we have to go back to the way it was in order to do that. Do you have any ideas yourself on how we might be able to do that so that a person from at home could do this?
I have lots of ideas in that. I like being part of communities, so I like understanding. My PTSD causes me to stay at home. a lot. But in this case, you have to answer your question. Yeah, there's all sorts of things, from procedural methods, for example, a possible answer to my question may have been, yes, if you'd like to formulate it into a question and email it to council, council would be able to properly address the question and get back to you at a later time. That would be a sufficient answer, instead of we have nothing. In regards to asking questions and that, I have a problem with it as well, and I will hold back on that because that's part of the secondary question I've submitted.
No, I thank you for coming up.
Thank you. Councilor Beswick.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Thank you very much for coming back. My comment to you would be, you are more than welcome to please call me. Both numbers are listed. You are very welcome to email me. You are very welcome to ask me any question that you'd like. You can send by text, email, phone call, or sit down and have a chat anytime that you would like. So that's one way that there are multiple ways that you can reach out to me. I'm not on Facebook and I'm not on Twitter, but otherwise you can reach me anytime you wish. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I just want to clarify that, just make sure that everybody knows. Your question was, if I'm watching a council meeting at home, how can I get the question asked and answered? At this particular point in time, we have no mechanism. It's plain and simple. The discussion you had with Councillor Fuller, great idea. Great idea. During the course of the meeting, send the clerk an email. Maybe we can do that. I'm sure we can do it. We've got Wi-Fi in there. Great, thank you. Your second question. Did council know that at last week's council meeting and again tonight, council has insulted and created a discrimination against people like me? Councillor Fuller.
I bear some responsibility in the discrimination part because Mr. Osborne had wanted to actually speak as a delegation to question period, and I totally forgot to bring that forward. So when I was out there talking to him at the break, we discussed this, and I knew, but the only reason I knew that this had caused him problems is we went for a walk after the council meeting last time, walked around our beautiful waterfront, had a good talk about this, talked about some ideas, and I'd like you to elaborate to this council what it was you said to me.
My pleasure in that. Myself, even though I suffer from PTSD, I also have a reading disability. Basically, I have a grade 6 reading and writing capability. So if the mayor notices a little difference in the phrasing of the sentence, I'm not the idea of what the proper phrasing of the sentence itself can sometimes be difficult. And there are people out there that are even worse than myself with full-out dyslexia, full-out capabilities of unable to write down or properly phrase a question. Well, last week I showed up to ask the previous question that I just got an answer for, and thank you very much. But when I showed up, I patiently waited and enjoyed the council meeting. And then at the question period time, I was going to go down and grab a piece of paper and write it and submit it. Then the mayor mentioned the two previous people that were going to be speaking. He mentioned he read out what was mentioned on the format. I guess it had to do with showers, and one of them was, I have a question about showers. I'm partially dyslexic, I'm fine with that type of thing being an inquiry. And I found out your bylaw 20-1 says it has to be an inquiry, not a question. And in doing so, okay, but the mayor said there is no question here and dismissed the gentleman. Then, which I thought, okay, well, now I'm confused. I don't know what, can I ask a question? Am I going to be shot down? And that, so I held back. And then when the city clerk stood up and reassured that the mayor was correct in his assumption and that it had to be phrased as a question with proper punctuation. Well, okay, yes, I have a college degree in a whole lot of things, but my reading capability still says that's wrong. Wrong in that. How does somebody have a college degree as a teacher here to say that this is the proper way to formulate a question? It confused me to the point where it made me to a point where I was afraid to even ask the question. So I backed off and waited for council to finish, and then left. And lucky enough, Mr. Fuller was able to provide himself some time to allow me to elaborate more on the situation that I had just occurred. And in doing so, you mentioned to bring it to this council meeting here as a delegation, and that, or as a question period, or to have it addressed here today, which is why I'm here again today. Today and not yet.
Thank you. And I'm sorry if it intimidated you when I was trying to deal with the last issue at the last meeting. But you bring up a really good point. When we consider access to our democratic process and governance within a community like ours, we're constantly, when we're looking at accessibility, we constantly think of a person in a wheelchair. We need wheelchair ramps. We need this. We need that to accommodate those people with mobility issues. And I want to thank you for bringing to the point that there are many other issues that prevent accessibility to the democratic process. And you certainly, I know over the course of the weekend when you emailed council, thank you for those emails, but it sparked a lively discussion, and I think it brought a lot of the councillors themselves to the understanding that there's far more to accessibility for citizens, for all citizens, than just mobility issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you. May I submit one more? Last one.
No, there were two.
I know I may be pushing it, but that's okay. I'll just pass this.
We're getting off relatively easy here. Oh, no. You made Bill laugh. It's got to be good.
Oh. May I stand and wish all councillors and city staff a Merry Christmas. Most
you
definitely.
Certainly can.
What's your question? Merry Christmas.
For the last moment prior to adjournment of our last meeting of the year, thank you very much, Mr.
Merry
Osborne.
Christmas, everybody.
Yes. Motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Brennan, seconded by Councillor Armstrong. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned.